Part 288. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2883. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. What have they done? It's so heartless. Yes, I'm sorry. It was my big mistake. Damn the white gods, they used tricks to confuse our minds. I and the white gods are at odds with each other. Presumably the white god sect came to our door in the previous war. How could the black god sect use my underworld as cannon fodder? We are too confused, please punish the saint. For a time, the entire team of rioting souls were crying and regretting their mistakes. There is no greater good than knowing your mistakes and being able to correct them. Besides, you are just being deceived by people from the white god department. The fault is not yours. What you have to do now is to select from around you who are the spies of the white god department. Who has deceived you just now? Kill these black sheep. After killing them, there will be no hidden dangers around everyone. Jialin was already ecstatic. She wanted to go back and show off to Edissa, but halfway through, she had to start well and end well. Moreover, in the distance, there are dozens of similar large crowds of souls. She needed a place to work out her past. In the land of the underworld, the white god system has now invested a lot of energy here. Although not many super powerful people came, such as the white god level existence, only one came, and he was hiding his head and tail, for fear that Jia Yan would catch his tail and kill him with one blow. However, there were other levels of strength, such as the invincible realm, but several people came, including more than a dozen at the venerable level. They are all in the major public teams, guiding the people to attack the black gods, and making the public feel disgusted with the ideas of the black gods. None of these things happen overnight. At most, they can seize the black god system to make the people of the underworld resentful and use it to cause trouble. From an energy point of view, it is completely impossible for them to replace it. So what they are doing, in essence, is to destroy this place if it is not for my use. The so-called saint must be some kind of trick played by the black gods. Maybe some of their gods are waiting for me in secret to show up. The invincible realm and the white gods are communicating in a special magic channel. Since those old guys left the white god sect, these young and strong sects have developed many far-sighted products. Different from the old guys, the young and strong Bashan sect not only treats the white dolphins in both positive and negative ways, but is also full of passion. They are willing to study the deep technologies that create the world. For example, teleportation magic, or remote communication magic. Rather than saying that the white god sect has gained the upper hand recently, it is better to say that these young and strong sects have gained motivation and are doing well in all aspects, which has led to the overall performance of the white god sect to be booming. Since you have made this judgment, I have ordered that you try not to show up recently. Since their black gods are willing to send gods to search for us, we will drag them with them. The more people who come, the better, just to provide more information to the outside world. It's time for reforms to improve our strength. The powerful god of the Qingzhuang sect issued the final judgment. Yes. All white gods are invincible, and their heads are full of life. They can also feel the recent changes in the white god system from the inside out. They are happy to be part of such a self-correcting organization. After all, from the perspective of these local powerhouses, the white gods are an established force that has been developing for countless years, and the resistance to reform is extremely huge. However, those high-ranking gods still made bold moves. It evokes the second spring. Who wouldn't want to die for an old force that can correct itself like this? The momentum of the Bashan system is enhanced from top to bottom. Lord Saint, I am wronged. We just listened to the slander, please forgive me. Those in the Bashan system are not the only ones taking drastic measures. Insiders of the Black God Department are also pursuing certain changes. Especially Jialin. She was once again entrusted with an important task by Jia Yan, and she transformed into a saint and returned to the underworld to solve the crisis in the underworld. This time, she repeated her old tricks and defeated a chaotic team of souls without encountering any obstruction from the White God system. Are the people from the White God department still hiding in secret? Jia Lin found that the enemy actually flinched in front of her. Logically speaking, her clone is not as powerful as her real body. Even a normal venerable level might not be able to beat him. However, the powers of the White Gods that could drive Etisha and her true body out of the underworld gave up attacking her clone at this time. Jia Lin was a little confused. Is this what the enemy is worried about? Why didn't you worry about it before, but why do you worry about it now? Jia Lin, who had not experienced many battles, had a hint of thoughtfulness on her face. Holy Saint, Shengming, this is the 5th group of refugees we have gathered. With such a great achievement, Lord Death and Lord Yama will surely reward the saint heavily when they return in the future. Jia Lin came back to her senses and said with some humor, you have also made great efforts. I believe you will be rewarded for your efforts. Haha, I'll have to thank the Holy Maiden for saying some nice words in front of the 2 goddesses. Several venerable level people with great merit looked at Jia Lin eagerly. It turns out that was their idea. They weren't quite sure about the status of the saint, but she was definitely higher than them. Therefore, it should be possible to speak good words for them in front of the 2 goddesses. Jia Lin smiled meaningfully. I learned something about human nature again. This is knowledge that it is completely impossible for me to learn when I am the death god Jia Lin. She felt that sending a clone to the underworld would be quite rewarding. Another anti-banner army was wiped out. Damn saint, if we encounter her, we must tear her into pieces first. Yes, that so-called saint's power to confuse people's hearts is quite terrifying. A few hundred kilometers away from Jia Lin and others' big tent, the leader of another refugee team broke into action. For the other colleagues who were rebelling against the great cause, the people here could be said to hate iron but not steel. The key is not buying time for them. It didn't even consume the saint's strength. How can this be done? According to some staunch anti-banners who escaped, the saint's demagogic remarks were quite swaying to ordinary souls. Humph, no matter what, it is impossible for our anti-banner army to be bewitched by her. If she dares to come, she will only come to die. Yes, it is said that the saint is a pure little girl with such a noble status, hee. You guy, you are too bold to even dare to take the idea of a saint. Whatever I was afraid of will turn out to be the opposite. At worst, I will escape to the White God sect in a few days. It is said that the White God sect has developed an environment that allows me to survive. Many leaders of the anti-flag army looked at them strangely. The worry of dying lips and cold teeth caused many homeless people around to come into frequent contact with him. Some 2 groups even connected with each other directly after talking happily and became one. In each team, there is a powerful person with the venerable level sitting in charge. In some teams, there are more than 1 or 2 venerable level powerhouses, but as many as 5 or 6. Good guy, looking at it this way, the combat power of the entire underworld is extremely high. But in the past, the underworld was not stable, and Jia Yan could not mobilize many troops and strong men. Now they have raised the flag of rebellion with great fanfare, which has exposed a lot of their strength. Of course, in the underworld, these are definitely not the only strong ones. More existences should be hiding in the dark, secretly observing the progress of the incident. No one knows which side these more hidden powerful men will end up on. The so-called saint has come in pursuit of victory. My fellow suffering compatriots, do you think we can just sit back and wait for death? Cannot. Do you think we, the deceased in the underworld, need to be ruled by this group of outsiders? Cannot. Well, if the so-called army of saints arrives later, we will show her what the will of the underworld is. We are united as one. united as one. The leader of the army encountered this time was also a very capable talker. With his lotus tongue, he made all the soul refugees excited. After saying this, I saw a large force flying in the distance from the sky, high in the dark mountains and forests of the underworld. This army was the one that Jialin finally controlled after gathering some strong souls who were willing to be commanded by her and reformed their past mistakes. The total number of people was not large, probably only a few hundred people. However, the strength of these hundreds of people cannot be underestimated. There are 7 people at the venerable level, 25 people at the starry sky level, and the rest are all heaven level experts. It can be said that they are all elite. We'll use words to ask them to disperse later. If they don't want to, we'll use force to drive them away. It's best not to kill anyone. Yes. Jialin gave the usual instructions. Before flying to the end of the field, I saw the team composed of thousands of souls, with strong men already swaying up to meet Jialin and the others. I have heard the name of the saint for a long time, and meeting her today is indeed extraordinary. Jialin knows that this is called courtesy before fighting. In the past, she might have immediately developed a good impression of the other person, and the right to speak was gradually taken over by the other person. But it was different now. The speech skills she learned helped her understand how to deal with it. Haha, Your Excellency, you don't have to say nice things. I just want to ask you, are you a member of the White God family? Or are you a soul under the rule of my underworld? The venerable level powerhouse who spoke these words would definitely not dare to respond. He waved his hands repeatedly and said, Lord Saint, I dare not accept the big hat of being a member of the White God section. I promise, I have nothing to do with the White God section as for whether I want to rule the souls for the underworld. I can only say that I am from the underworld, but I am not necessarily under the rule of the black gods. This answer can be said to be watertight. Jialin looked at him again and saw that this man had a knife hidden in his smile. He looked quite smooth and was definitely not an easy character to get along with. Well. She recalled the military books she had read, and her brain was working hard. Since you admit that you are a citizen of the underworld, why are you not under the rule of my Black God department? Do you know that this underworld was created by my Black God department, and the entire energy source of the underworld is owned by the great Black God? If you don't want to recognizing the Black God system, as opposed to not recognizing the underworld, is really not a son of man. Jialin even started talking to the other party. Lord Saint, this is wrong. Although my underworld is mainly composed of black energy, this black energy has existed since ancient times. Whether it is owned by Lord Black God remains to be verified. You have concluded that my underworld is based on these baseless claims. The ownership of the people is a bit too arbitrary. The man was glib, but the reasons he gave were quite valid. At least Jialin was speechless for a moment and seemed unable to speak to him. Seeing this, someone behind the man spoke up and said, Yes, I, a member of the underworld, want to decide where I belong. Is it wrong? If the Black God system doesn't work, we can change the autonomy of the underworld. If self-government doesn't work, it's not impossible to take refuge in the White God system. As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes turned directly to the venerable person who made such nonsense. But after hearing what this man said, the eloquent venerable level man immediately knew that something was going to happen to him. Sure enough, when this superlative made the superfluous statement about taking refuge in the White God system, the expressions of everyone on Jialin's side changed drastically. He surrendered to the White Gods. This person is a collaborator with the enemy. Follow my orders and kill him directly. Jialin shouted with a sinister look on her face. Yes. Immediately, the two venerables beside Jialin stood up with sharp eyes and flew directly towards the venerables at the end. This, Lady Saint, there are two others, please wait a moment. This brother of mine is outspoken, but he was unintentional. Please forgive him for his sin. The smooth-tongued venerable level man couldn't let his brother die in front of his eyes, so he quickly stepped forward to stop him. The other venerables around him also stood up without saying a word. Two Jiolin's subordinates, the venerable level, leaped over, their sights filled with cold light. One of them shouted, "Good brother, is this person outspoken, or has he and even you all defected to the White God Department? Let us investigate this matter personally. If you are just dissatisfied with the rule of the two goddesses, I still think it's excusable, but you actually said the words of surrendering to the white gods. No soul from the underworld can accept it, nor can the thousands of fellow souls who have died." As soon as these words came out, everyone's expressions changed drastically. Below, among the non-venerable soul anti-flag troops, many powerful people could hear the conversation between the two sides and look solemn. Jiolin is right here. It's okay to fight against the underworld, and there's nothing wrong with autonomy. But I can't mention joining the white god system. This kind of speaking without restraint is called seeking death. Because of the previous Black and White War, whether it was the Black Gods who allowed the war to destroy the underworld or not, the most critical main reason was that the White Gods invaded the underworld. As a result, 3/4 of the underworld was reduced to nothingness, and tens of thousands of souls were killed and injured, with less than half of the original survivors surviving. Although the Black Gods should bear part of the blame for such a bloody feud, the main enemy should be counted among them. On the White God system, if all the anti-flag teams don't even have this basic understanding, they will definitely lose public support. In an instant, many souls stared. I felt a little disgusted with the leaders of the anti-flag army flying in the sky. Friends, please don't use force. We don't want to be enemies with the saint. The smooth-tongued venerable level man was also a little embarrassed at this time. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2884. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. He clearly knew that the soul people below would be disgusted by what the venerable person said. But he couldn't abandon that venerable level. After all, they were brothers who did great things together. If he abandoned him, what would the other venerable level think? This is the most uncomfortable part of being a talker. Since you talk nonsense and make promises everywhere, you will take the interests of everyone into consideration, otherwise you will suffer backlash. Damn it, why is that guy so loud-mouthed? The glib-tongued venerable level feels that the mud cannot support the wall. How dare you protect such a being? Very good, it seems that there are rumors that you are involved with the white gods, and it turns out to be true. No. I'll wait. The venerable person who spoke so freely is now unable to defend himself. After receiving Jiolin's voice from behind, the several venerables who came over directly used force. If you don't take advantage of the righteousness to take action at this time, later the other party will fight, and the conversational advantage finally obtained will be neutralized and lost. You dare to be from the Black God system. The venerable class who came to speak took action directly, and several strong refugee men were suddenly startled, and then became furious. People from the Black God system are simply shameless. Come on, guys, shoulder to shoulder. The Black Gods are going to slaughter us, why are you just standing there? The few venerables who started to take action were still strong enough. The two sides were tied for a while. We urgently need the support of the starry sky levelers below. But what struck them was, those starry sky class actually hesitated. Even if some people were eager to give it a try, no one moved. It's over. Did the conversation just now really convince all the refugees? How is this possible? They have been leading this team for several days. Everyone is filled with indignation every time they are mobilized. Some people come on stage to describe the evil deeds of the Black God system during its rule. They burst into tears as they speak, as if they are irreconcilable with the Black God system. But now, this. Come on. Why are you so indifferent? Now, the more I beat, the more frightened I became. Call. The eloquent and venerable person who claimed to be a wisdom star saw a small white fist in front of him that was rapidly enlarging. Although the saint's strength is not at the level of a venerable, she naturally possesses the power to suppress souls. Bang! The strong man was hit directly from the sky to the ground. Huh, you've been chattering away all this time, please calm down now. Jia Lin sneered and clenched her fists. This was the first time she experienced the pleasure of this kind of front line. The strong ones will kill them if they can, but those ordinary souls are the subjects of my black god section. Their minds are temporarily deceived, so they won't kill them if they can. Clear. The saint takes action again. When this popular movement was suppressed by the saint troops, the entire underworld was in an uproar. The so-called saint was unknown until recently. Unexpectedly, in just a few days, it went from being a blockbuster to being well known to everyone. Countless people claimed that the saint treated the law-abiding souls as loving the people as her own children, but showed no mercy to the leaders who rebelled against the tide. Under the threat of the Holy Girl, several smaller and weaker teams began to disperse on their own initiative. Those leaders went to the area where the Holy Girl was to surrender in person and received quite generous commutations. As a result, the underworld countertide movement that was in full swing suddenly came to a standstill. Tisk, tisk, I didn't expect Xiaolin to be so capable. Jia Yan was amazed as he read the battle report and frontline impact information. Adisha's eyes widened and she was also dumbfounded. Jia Lin is not that powerful, Adisha doesn't believe it. Aditha was inexplicably angry. Jia Yan grinned unsurprisingly. This is a child who refuses to admit defeat. People will grow. Xiaolin's growth is obvious to all of us, so you have to work hard too. Humph, Adisha must work hard. Don't lose to her. Adisha flew to her little palace angrily. This is to be stimulated and work hard. Jia Yan smiled slightly, meaningfully. Because from his perspective, Jia Lin is not the only one who has grown. Adisha, who seems to have not grown in size, has actually undergone many changes. Looking at her current temper, although Adisha is controlling her rationality to avoid bad consequences, she is much more humane than she was at the beginning. At least now she knows how to express her emotions. With emotions, various misjudgments or mistakes will occur, but I don't think this is a bad thing. What Jia Yan wants is more than an omniscient and omnipotent brain, otherwise why would he let Adisha come to this world to develop self-awareness? Even if it only makes her a little closer to a normal life form, Jia Yan hopes that she will get what she wants, even if the cost is that Aditha will not be so useful in the future. At worst, just use her brain part. Maybe in the end, I asked her to change just because I was too lonely and wanted a normal person to talk to next to me. Jia Yan shook his head mockingly. In short, the unexpected situation in the underworld began to be effectively controlled after Jia Lin suddenly showed her ability. Jia Yan only needs to focus on the outside world. It is obvious that the white gods are behind this matter. Their goal should be to let the events in the underworld entangle part of our army. Since we haven't been fooled, can we use a trick to give the opponent some punishment for his overwhelming energy? Jia Yan thought. When the battle came to a direct face-to-face with the white gods, he no longer relied so much on Adisha's wisdom and strategies. Against strong men from the outside world, Adisha's plans often don't work that well. It is better to rely on Jia Yan's own experience to come up with a strategy. Although it is not as exhaustive as Adisha, it is definitely more flexible and comprehensive. He rehearsed the formations of both sides on the holographic sand table, pressed the chess pieces, and pushed forward. It's nice here, let's do it. Cultivation Superstar. Several months have passed since the last time the Black God system captured the entire Cultivation Superstar. The changes in the Cultivating Superstar are obvious to all. The original major sects, under the pressure of the unparalleled tyrannical Black God system, had to bow their heads and sent out their own troops one after another. They were eventually dispersed and became small sources of troops from many fronts of the entire Black God system army. And the influence from the Black God system doesn't stop there. The combined tactics of the Black Gods, especially the improved version for immortal cultivators, is simply a supreme treasure for a planet with profound knowledge such as the Immortal Cultivator Superstar. A large number of immortals, demons, fairies, after trying the Black God system of cultivating immortals that has been spread to the superstars, they feel like they have found a treasure. The cultivation methods of immortal cultivators already make use of the power of the Black God to a large extent. After all, this system of cultivating immortals is a personal hobby of Jiayan. Therefore, the Black God system's training method can be said to complement each other. Not only the single-person cultivation techniques, but even more terrifying are the joint tactics. The immortal version of the joint tactics modified from the Pai Guo Wei's joint tactics can almost allow the immortal cultivators gathered in threes to cross a level. If they were to form a team of 10 and resist a super strong man 2 levels stronger than them, there would be a slight possibility. Ever since, in order to practice these techniques and obtain more advanced techniques, all the powerful people above the superstar cultivators have gone crazy. Master, today there are 20 more young talents from our sect who have expressed their intention to withdraw from the Xin Chen sect and rush to the Black God Department's new army camp for training. Someone left again? This. Qingwan was sitting at the door, her whole person extremely gloomy. After she took over Qingling's position, she finally understood that although she had obtained this position and received Qingling's verbal promise to keep her from being the leader, she felt a little uncomfortable after the actual experience. Different from what he had imagined, this Niu Daxing Shenman had so many affairs that he could not control them at all. And the Black God sect has finally fully mastered the immortal cultivation superstar. As the most supportive local force on the planet that supports the Black God sect, she can't refuse the Black God sect's recruitment, right? If you support it, the result will be that young talents and even strong men will go to the Black God department one by one. I don't know how many of them left because they didn't like her as the new leader. Of course, it's more because the benefits that the Black God system can bring are far better than those of the Xin Chen sect. As she watched, a few months passed, and only half of the backbone of the Xin Chen sect was left. Qingwan was completely stunned. What's this called? This is called a level leap strike. They are just soldiers and generals. I am afraid that before the Black God department launched the recruitment campaign, they never thought that it would affect them. As a result, the Xin Chen sect was half dead. This is a fart, boss. Qingwan sighed. She had already learned from her most proud subordinates in the intelligence department that several well-known elder-level beings within the Xin Chen sect were also eager to participate in the recruitment activities of the Black God sect, so the Black God sect personally sent people to recruit them. Puff. When Qingwan was at a loss, the space was torn apart. A girl with the temperament of a fairy came out of the world and appeared in a fairyland. Qingwan only glanced at it, and her eyelids suddenly jumped wildly. The head of the Xin Chen sect, who was among the top 10,000 people, quickly jumped down from his throne and saluted respectfully. Senior sister, why are you here? I am no longer the leader, you are the leader. The visitor turned out to be Qingling, who had not been heard from for several months. How dare I claim to be the leader in front of senior sister? Senior sister, you don't know how I have spent my days like years in the past few months. Only now do I understand that when you, senior sister, developed the Xin Chen sect into the world-ruling one by yourself, it was how difficult. Everyone likes to hear good things, even Qingling, who is as beautiful as an iceberg, is no exception. Really, I hope you haven't led the Xin Chen sect astray. I don't dare. Although it's a bit difficult for me, I definitely don't dare to ruin your hard work, senior sister. Qingling nodded and then explained her intention. Since you have nothing to do today, come and attend a mobilization meeting with me. Pep rally. What is this? The soldiers of the cultivation superstar have been training for several months. Now is the time when the gods need them. As the leader of the Xin Chen sect, if you are present, the will of the recruits will be strengthened. You understand what I mean? Do you need them? Send troops. Are you going to fight? Qingwan was confused at first, but soon her eyes widened. The fact that Qingling was able to take a fancy to her and let her serve as the head of the Xin Chen sect shows that she has enough brains. With just a few words, she could figure out the reason. Yes, our Black God department wants to use troops nearby, but it is impossible to reveal the specific content to you. Yes, senior sister, I will go with you. Qingwan felt a war between heaven and man in her heart, and then she seemed to have made up her mind. Senior sister, I have an unkind request. I want to lead the entire Xin Chen sect to join the Black God System's combat sequence. Please give me your permission, senior sister. Yes, this is exactly the conclusion Qingwan came to after struggling for a long time. Since there is no way to stop the onslaught of the Black Gods, then blend in. With her position as the head of the Xin Chen sect, her relationship with Qingling, and the huge power and talent advantage of the Xin Chen sect, she must join the Black God department, not to mention becoming a behemoth within the department, but at least in the nearby starry sky. It is possible that his status will be improved and he will gain some status in the starry sky surrounding the Black God system. It's better than the ending of the human beings being gradually absorbed by the Black God system and their own demise. Qingling glanced at her unexpectedly. Then with a smile in his eyes, I didn't expect that you actually grew up. I can agree to this, but you have to guarantee that when you enter the Black God system, you cannot use all the methods you used before, because the Black God system is different from the immortal cultivating superstar. If you want to use your brain under the hands of gods, I can't protect you. That's natural. Thank you, senior sister, for making it possible. Qingwan was overjoyed. The cultivation superstar, as well as the several major planets around the cultivation superstar, as long as they are occupied by the Black God system, will be mobilized. Flags were fluttering in the starry sky, and countless new soldiers and veterans began to gather. Such a large-scale operation naturally cannot be concealed from the White God troops on the opposite side. However, the war in the starry sky is not something you can react to after seeing it. Because no matter how fast you react, you can't mobilize a corresponding large number of troops to defend the enemy in an instant. At least under the threat of such a large-scale troop source from the Black God department, the White God department cannot do this. They could only watch helplessly as more and more Black God troops gathered day by day, and the formation became more and more powerful. The White God department's reinforcements reacted half a beat too slowly. Finally, on this day, a group war of unprecedented scale broke out again. Then with a smile in his eyes, I didn't expect that you actually grew up. I can agree to this, but you have to guarantee that when you enter the Black God system, you cannot use all the methods you used before, because the Black God system is different from the immortal cultivating superstar. If you want to use your brains under the hands of gods, I can't protect you. That's natural. Thank you, senior sister, for making it possible. Qingwan was overjoyed. The cultivation superstar, as well as the several major planets around the cultivation superstar, as long as they are occupied by the Black God system, will be mobilized. Flags were fluttering in the starry sky, and countless new soldiers and veterans began to gather. Such a large-scale operation naturally cannot be concealed from the White God troops on the opposite side. However, the war in the starry sky is not something you can react to after seeing it. Because no matter how fast you react, you can't mobilize a large number of corresponding departments in an instant. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2885. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. Rumble. The sky roared loudly. That's not thunder, but the sound of gunfire. Water droplets fell from the sky. That's not rain, but blood mist. Above the sky, a large number of strong men were fighting fiercely in the air. Black and white, the two distinct colors of black and white are divided into the sky. Black God System. You want to invade my front-line planet with just this small force. You are simply overestimating your capabilities. If you want to die, let me help you. The active attack of the Black God System is already in full swing. People in the Bayesian system, anxious and angry, can only be helpless and furious. Now, the overall decisive battle to create the world has taken an early stage. Either the Black God sect invades the White God sect's hinterland, or the White God sect fights back and hits the Black God sect's home base. There is no option for peaceful coexistence. No one knows why the black and white families, who have been coexisting peacefully for countless years, have been fighting to the death during these years. But anyone with a discerning eye can see from this situation that the two sides are no longer able to coexist. Either you die or I die. Ah! The great battle between the black and white gods, we mortals will suffer. This is really. On the planet, a large number of people are miserable. Although both sides have rough restrictions and will never touch mortals, when the war reaches its fiercest moments, no one cares so much. Friends, we are from the Black God sect, come with me, I will protect you. Just when the mortals were in despair, someone wearing black clothes appeared and led many people to hide. Gained a lot of goodwill. Edisha and Jiolin's experience lurking behind enemy lines helped. As early as the beginning, there were a large number of spies from the Black God system lurking in the stars on the border of the White God system, and some even held government positions. This is one of the evidences that the White God system is generally at a disadvantage. They were in a coma for a full 9/10 of the time, and it was impossible to rely on the last minute's wisdom to restore all the previous bad cards to the original state. What? Why did our artillery shells attack our own troops? Black gods, you are so despicable and shameless that you actually instigated the rebellion of our artillery unit by fighting openly. When the whole war was at its most intense, the artillery fire from the White God system's planet knocked the White God system troops into confusion. The Black God Department used certain chess pieces that had long occupied the position of planetary defense officials to strike back. Normally this would be okay, but at such a critical moment, being hit by a few rounds of artillery fire from one's own side would be really fatal. Ha ha ha, everyone of the White God sect, listen up. The White God sect is acting in reverse, causing anger and resentment. Now that your troops have seen the reality clearly, they have given up the White God sect and turned to the Black section. Are you still going to be stubborn? In the sky, a strong man from the Black God system roared loudly. The sound filled the sky. After all, a venerable level voice is not something that can be ignored. A roar can spread throughout the entire planet. In an instant, everyone was suspicious. A large number of White God type soldiers did not believe what the Black God type said, but the artillery fire below was indeed bombarding their own people. Even if he knew in his heart that it was the Black God sect causing trouble, but the Black God sect even controlled its own artillery unit, could it still be far away from taking over this planet? By the way, is it really a good deal to work for the White Gods? If there are too many people who think this way, the combat effectiveness of the entire army will immediately decline. There were even small groups of deserters who fled. Black God Department, stop playing tricks. There is a strong person from the White God system who wants to turn the tide. However, the Black God Department has already made arrangements. In the past, the black gods did not have the upper hand in terms of military strength. Many times, one person of the same level fought against 2 or 3 white gods of the same level, and they were often suppressed quite miserably. Nowadays, the two sides are not said to be reversed, but they are definitely evenly matched in terms of numbers. There are many strong men in the black god system who can spare their hands, and their past high-intensity combat experience suddenly seems to be much stronger than the opponent's strong men. Someone spoke up. It's okay, whoever dares to speak will have corresponding peers coming forward and attacking him until he can't even say a word. Even if you are strong enough, one person cannot suppress you, but what about 2 people? In the past, many people from the Bashan family bullied others, but today they all responded in their own way. It's a great feeling when there are so many people. The black gods are going too far to deceive others. The black god department was very happy, but the white god department was extremely depressed. When will the number of powerful people from their white god system be less than those from the black god system? Yes, many people are accustomed to the Bashan clan having a large number of people and taking it as a sign that they are evenly matched because they have fewer people. Haha, are you going too far to deceive others? It's time for you to have a taste of this. That's right. In the past, we were so pressured that we didn't even dare to leave the camp. Finally, we can let you feel the same feeling that we have felt. Do you feel comfortable? The black gods felt extremely happy. He let out a bad breath. In fact, many new recruits in the Bashan system do not know why. They were new recruits, and they had not yet experienced the feeling of being bullied by a large number of people in the black god system. They did not expect that it would be their turn to repay the mistakes made by their seniors. It's also unlucky. As the number of black gods increased, their momentum became stronger and stronger. Finally, except for the artillery battalion that had been occupied by the black gods on this planet, the black gods suppressed the white gods head-on during the entire war. Gradually, the winner was finally decided. Click. Accompanied by a venerable level master who was bleeding profusely, he was killed by a strong man of the same level in black robes on the planet's largest temple square. The black-robed strong man smiled and flew to the white god system flag in the square, and lightly he stretched out his hand gently and broke the flagpole. The flag fell. Earth-shattering cries rang out, one after another. The black gods won. A clean win. Not only here, at a similar time point, the front-line troops who launched the war at the same time on several nearby planets and starry sky defense positions all achieved great victories. The entire starry sky turned sideways due to this battle. The white god system, which was still improving at first, was directly exposed to its true colors by this battle. Many people believed that the white god sect had rekindled their trust in the white god sect due to the last war in the underworld. However, that trust had not yet formed a substantial help, and they soon realized the white god sect's incompetence again. It's like a basin of cold water being poured down. They sober up. Right. A great victory in the underworld. Does it mean that the white god system has been completely transformed? Such a behemoth can be reborn if it wants to be reborn? How can it be? The people belonging to the white god system starfield were silent one by one. Certain forces that were vacillating in the interstellar world gradually began to get rid of the white god system. The people on the black god's side, who had been shaken a lot by the defeat of the underworld, all took their fears back to their stomachs. Really? The white god series is still the white god series. The black god system is still the unparalleled and powerful black god system. In addition, the so-called victory of the underworld has not been seen by many people with their own eyes. If you say it is a great victory, then it is a great victory. Many people don't understand what the underworld is. Who doesn't have some doubts in their hearts when they preach about the great victory there? At least from what they can see in front of them, people only feel that the so-called victory in the underworld that the white god sect has been promoting recently is just a small advantage. Maybe it will kill a few people from the Black God sect and deceive the people later. No words can compare to seeing it with your own eyes. For a while, the whole White God department area was in a state of panic on the day when the winner of the war was decided. The triumphant songs of the front-line days seemed like a passing cloud. That state of self-consciousness and gloominess reappeared on the faces of senior officials and soldiers. Why? When they heard the battle report from the front line, countless people cursed in their hearts. If the White God system is destined to lose, then why did it have that previous great victory? Could it be a flashback? I was given hope and then extinguished it in an instant, so cruel. For a time, countless people within the Bayesian family who could not accept this bipolar reversal plot looked away, and some even went too far and chose to commit suicide to escape reality. Also plagued by grief is the central region of the White God clan, the interior of the White God kingdom. There was complete silence in the White and Pure Hall. The faces of the young and strong faction were either unconvinced, despairing, or looking like they were laughing. The only character with an expressionless face is the White Dolphin sitting upright. He wasn't scared, he was observing. Observe below, there are still a few people who are ready to contradict themselves. If those old men were here, someone might have ridiculed his policies. Let him see today who among the Qingzhuang sect is like this. Who dares? He will kill anyone. Otherwise, the White God system will definitely lose. Actually, this matter can be said to be expected by everyone. Suddenly, someone spoke up in the main hall that had been silent for a long time. The White Dolphin looked up. This is a young man who supported him from the beginning. This person had no intention of seeking blame, and spoke eloquently. Whether we won a great victory in the battle in the underworld, everyone has their own opinion in their hearts. Our publicity was helpful in the early stage, but now the true colors are exposed. Let's discuss how to fight next. The true colors are revealed. Someone sneered. The so-called true colors are revealed, which means that they are not opponents of the dark gods at all. No more overt and covert fighting. The White Dolphin suddenly waved his hand. He is really tired. Looking at the people below who were attracted by his words, he felt helpless. There was also a bit of a wry smile. I wanted to take advantage of the last time and gradually expand the advantage. However, when it comes to the details, it turns out that the entire system is riddled with holes. You can't turn the situation around with just one victory. Besides, can that time in the underworld really be called a great victory? Rather than saying it was a great victory, it was better to say that Jia Yan deliberately asked them to destroy part of the underworld to alleviate the problem of the underworld's vast territory and the continued invasion of the White Gods. This is called a strong man breaking his wrist. Although it is a bit cruel, with only a quarter of the underworld left, it is really difficult for them to break into the White God system. In other words, it is impossible to repeat the same trick after scoring twice. So they didn't win at all. Have you figured it out? We are at a disadvantage in every aspect. Although those seniors will restrain us when they are here, it is undeniable that if they are here, they may use this victory to expand the results. At least they won't be easily counterattacked by Jia Yan and the others. It is extremely rare for Bai Shen to speak well of the older generation. The young and strong factions remain silent. The elderly have their own benefits and advantages. Everyone knows that old antiques will indeed restrict young people's self-expression and make people quite bored. But their existence will use a large amount of various experiences to make up for the detours taken by young people, and at least they will not make two wrong judgments. This is the case now. If there are still a few old guys around the White Dolphins, the situation may not be like this. Young master, it's useless to say all this now. You are the same. Whether you are angry, uncomfortable, or frustrated, I can't control all kinds of emotions, but the problem still exists, and we can't ignore it. There was a strong man who could not be called a young man who stood out from the crowd. This strong man is not a young man, nor does he belong to the older generation. He is around middle age and is an outlier among the strong men present. No one can take charge of the overall situation. He didn't want to offend the young master, but now he has no choice but to shoulder the responsibility. Otherwise, if the young people mess around on their own, the war will be doomed. Oh, tell me, what should I do now? After hearing the question from the white dolphin, the man said earnestly, now that the matter has come to an end, my suggestion is to recognize the reality. The Black God sect is powerful. We admit that we are at a disadvantage. We should no longer take the initiative to attack for the time being and adopt a defensive posture. Defensive stance. Everyone looked at each other. If you make this decision, represents the white god system finally lowering its proud head. Hey, the white gods have been acting very strangely recently, and they no longer act tit for tat with our army. Last time, as usual, I went to shout in front of their formation. Before, they could no longer sit still and sent troops to fight me. This time, they tolerated it. The white gods who don't take the initiative to fight with us and don't respond to our provocations are still the white gods. Within a few days, the saying that the Bai Shen family has become cowardly became rampant. The entire frontline troops of the Black God Department felt that the White God Department had begun to shrink back. Is there anyone in the Baishan family who can turn the tide? Jia Yan also received information. In fact, in the last frontline battle, God-level experts also participated. After all, this is a battle to change the situation, and the gods cannot ignore it. Jia Yan did not come in person, but sent several major martial arts factions including Qingling there. The battle between gods takes place in a remote starry sky far away from ordinary battlefields. In the end, some peace remained, with almost no losses on either side. As for the black gods, they are not prepared to make the white gods flee before the final outcome of the war is reached. This may very well lead to the white dolphins knowing that they have no hope of winning and choosing to abandon the world and leave. Then it will be all in vain. As for the white gods, it's not that they don't want to kill one or two black gods as a way to intimidate or boost their own morale, but they really can't do it. As for Jia Yan, he even deliberately put two heads on the head to make the white gods lose the idea of improving their morale. In the end, he had to give up because this would cause a huge drop in his own morale. Even the enemy considers your morale. It is obvious how miserable the white gods are in the eyes of the black gods. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2886. Jia Yan did not expect that the Baishan family would lower their proud heads and choose to retreat. This is a good tactic to use when you are at a disadvantage. Because this buys time for a major internal reform. It is also the so-called exchanging space for time. The Baishan system is becoming more mature. In other words, he regained his composure. You are obviously several times older than me, but you have only learned to grow up now. Tisk tisk, it's good to be born in a powerful force. Jia Yan sighed. There is no doubt that he is mocking this enemy. Either the sarcasm is belittled, or the sarcasm is in name only. If he had been given such a family background, he would have taken off long ago. Of course, situations are different, and people's growth status is also different. Maybe it turned him into a white dolphin, or maybe it was just a white dolphin that changed its form. White dolphin in mosquito form. Bah, white dolphin's father will beat him to death. What are you thinking about? Jia Yan laughed to himself. Anyway, things didn't work out. The white dolphin was now fighting with its last resort and chose to retreat. As for him, he was leading the powerful black god-type army to fight in the original hinterland of the white dolphin. In small-scale battles, comeback battles abound. However, in a larger-scale war, if you are weak, and if you lose, you are defeated. For example, in the ancient times of the Earth's Waxia kingdom, the wars between the Ming and the Qing, the wars between the Ming and the Yuan, and the wars between the Yuan and the Song dynasty, all of them were the decline of the former dynasty's national power and its military strength, which was undoubtedly replaced by the latter. The relationship between the Black God system and the White God system is similar. Even when the White God sect had the upper hand, they were unable to push the Black God sect into a corner. Today, the Black God sect has risen strongly, but it is too late for them to reverse the decline. In fact, in this battle to create the world, if we use national power as a metaphor, I am afraid that the white dolphins are doomed to lose from the beginning. Jia Yan thought a lot. When the Black God system is at its weakest, it is in its initial creation stage. At that time, the White God sect wanted to destroy the Black God sect, which could be said to be overwhelming. But they can't do that. Because the White Dolphin wants more, it wants to force out all the power of Jia Yan, and then swallow his energy in this world, thereby forcing Jia Yan's real body to death, and finally swallows the whole of Jia Yan, becoming the driving force behind his strength. A stepping stone to the next level. But White Dolphin missed something. That is this method of raising Gu's self-respect, which can easily cause him to suffer backlash, not to mention raising an opponent whose apparent strength is similar to his. The White God system gave way to the Black God system time and time again. Dead and invincible? It's nothing, just a chess piece of this world. Dead God level? It doesn't matter, we have far more people than the Black Gods, so it's no problem for him or to hit and hit. The White Dolphin gradually discovered that the people around him were demoralized. He was confused and at a loss. In fact, the idea is a good one. It is to support Jia Yan and prevent Jia Yan from being forced out of despair to create the world before he becomes stronger, so that he can gain the maximum benefit. But he never thought that if you fail, failure will become a habit, and death will become a habit, and the morale of your subordinates will decrease. Even he himself may have cast a lot of shadows. Okay. By now, the Black Gods began to gain the upper hand, forcing the White Gods to enter a defensive phase. Is this called shooting oneself in the foot? So, pretending to be cool will not end well. Jia Yan bared his teeth and wanted to smile. He really had no sympathy for White Dolphin at all, and looked down on that guy from the bottom of his heart. The strength is there, but unfortunately, the heart is as high as the sky and the life is as thin as paper. Not long after sighing, Jia Yan received a report from the front line again. Another good news. As expected. Switching to a defensive posture cannot be accomplished in a short while. Not only in terms of mentality, but also in terms of equipment and personnel ratio, it requires an adaptation process. Therefore, on the front line battlefield, the Black Gods continued their attacks, quickly destroying the enemy camp and capturing 2 key planets. This is a strategic location behind enemy lines whose importance is comparable to that of a cultivating superstar. When Jia Yan set the key events of the war before, the best result he set was to end this big offensive. Now, the Black God-type troops have successfully achieved his planned plan. Of course, it's also related to the enemy's astonishing stupidity. Faced with such a defeated enemy force, sometimes it is impossible not to win even if you don't want to. My order is that the plan for this advance operation is over. The front line troops should stop the front line and rest in place. Yes. The staff officer retired respectfully. Jia Yan held Hineo in his hand. He did not feel overly excited because of the complete victory of this forward general offensive plan. Because of this kind of opponent, such a result is not surprising at all. As soon as the good news came, he was already working on a more radical next war plan. Soon, Jia Yan, who simply drew a few fronts on his brain, set up commanders of each front and the main attack force, sent out this simple war plan. And the target people of the mass message are all the absolute top leaders of the Black God system, the gods of the Black God system. The title of the war plan is eye-catching and exciting, the decisive battle plan. Good. The battle is over, and Jia Yan has prepared the final battle plan. The last plan to completely destroy the White Dolphin group in this world. Gentlemen, although the White Dolphins are in a bad situation, they still have some resistance. I hope you don't take it lightly and fight this last war well. Don't worry, sir, we won't make the same mistake as the White Dolphins. Faced with Jia Yan's instructions, someone responded with great ease in the reply letter. Jia Yan smiled reassuringly. Compared with the unreliable subordinates of White Dolphin, he believed that his subordinates would not disappoint him. Speaking of which, if this battle ends, I might have to fight again with White Dolphin's subordinates after I go out. I don't know if those guys who went out earlier will take advantage of my Orion Arm's empty combat power to do something bad. Action. The battle to create the world has not yet ended, and Jia Yan is already worried about things in the galaxy. However, he believes that the Orion Arm should be in peace for the time being. At least the scene he saw during his last real body activity was not a battle scene. Presumably the White Dolphins are still dreaming of winning and then taking over the Orion Arm. Or maybe they are worried that the people in the Orion Arm will have a way to inform Jia Yan in the creation world and attack the Orion Arm casually, causing Jia Yan to give up the fight for the creation world and break free, thus messing up the White Dolphins' plan. There are several reasons, and the real answer may be a combination of many reasons. In short, the outside world must not be so easy to fight, so my worries will be reduced. Thinking back on the experiences and journey in the magical world over the past few years, Jia Yan couldn't help but sigh. Although the White Dolphin is indifferent, this world has really allowed me to appreciate the fighting methods of high-level experts, and it has also fulfilled some of my dreams. Now that I am so close to getting out of trouble, it makes me a little reluctant to give up. However, as a strong person, attachment is the most undesirable emotion. Jia Yan often abandons his family, let alone a world like this. So the mood swings are momentary. Then it was back to normal. He closed his eyes. Around the entire Black Temple, the energy level began to rise sharply. He is adjusting. Because Jia Yan believes that the time for a decisive battle is coming soon. He had been working hard for several years, which even accounted for a large part of his lifespan of just over 100 years. How could he be willing to let these years go to waste? So no matter whether his opponent is defeated or not, he will go all out for the final battle. I hope the White Dolphin will not have other backup players. If he has someone more powerful, then no one knows. I will also use some of my trump cards. I'm afraid that the trump card in the end is too shameless. I'm really afraid that he will accuse me of cheating, haha. Jia Yan smiled sarcastically to himself. At the same time, compared with the smooth sailing of the Black God Department, the current situation inside the turtle-shaped White God Department is already in a state of dire straits. The general public of the White God sect, since the recent sudden attack of the Black God sect, which destroyed several frontline planets of the White God sect, and even advanced into the hinterland of the White God sect, capturing the two most important defense planets in the hinterland, the entire people have become panicked. Although there are hundreds of central planets in the hinterland of the White God system, each one can be said to be impregnable. But facing the menacing Black God-type army, no one had the slightest confidence anymore. The entire Bashan system is like a pool of stagnant water. Except for occasional reports from the front line and losses in Legion battles somewhere, there is nothing that can arouse the emotions of the people. In fact, there are other variables in the two major gods. Among them, the biggest variable related to people's livelihood comes from the fact that the person who created the world has been activated and gradually transformed into a real person, or intelligent life. They become more reasonable and can do certain things that the program cannot calculate. Such as more romantic love, more complicated grievances and hatreds, and a more difficult world. The hinterland of Bashan. A young man and a woman were holding hands and walking on the beach. I'm going to the battlefield. The young man looked at the sea and did not dare to look at the girl next to him. The girl's hands suddenly tightened. She looked back at the boy, her pretty red lips trembling a few times, wanting to say something. However, thousands of words turned into one sentence: "I'm waiting for you. No, please forget about me. The future of our planetary force is uncertain here. I will probably die on the front line, so you find other boys and live a good life. I don't, I only want you. If you die, I will die with you. You don't understand, you really don't understand. The world will change soon and we won't survive. Just forget about me and live a good life." "I don't. I won't." Boys and girls were wailing in pain on the beach. The boy wanted to leave, but couldn't bear it. A bard in the distance sighed after looking at it, picked up the moran fir, plucked the strings, and sang a sad and tragic song. Whether it's artistic conception or emotion, everything is very different from the unremarkable songs of the bard in the past. Whether it's him, the girl in the distance, or many people far away in the city. As big as this planet, the entire white god system, including the small creative world of the black god system. All intelligent life has produced human nature that is far more complex than the original, as well as various emotional fluctuations. It is quite different from the original created world. There were too many unreasonable places in the past. Today they are getting closer and closer to the outside world. All in all, there are a lot more human feelings here. Perhaps, many people think this is a good thing. But this kind of change in human relations has had an unprecedented impact on the previous rule foundation of the white god system. Because the main tool of white god system's governance is faith. Although there is no right or wrong in belief, the main reliance on ignorance to spread belief and the way of spreading belief by treating people as fools has allowed the white god department to endure the pain of the past amid the rising personal will. The backlash of personal emotions caused countless people under the rule of the white gods to question their past practices. Why did they believe in the white god system so firmly in the past? The Bayesian system is so great, why are they losing ground? And why is it that the black god side is rumored to be more humane, but the white god side doesn't do that? Too many reasons why. There are more and more people who have developed more self-awareness and are more likely to question the white god system, and even question the white god himself. Perhaps for individuals, most of them just have doubts. But when this kind of will is magnified to the entire Bayesian system, what is shown is that the fighting spirit is low, the work efficiency is reduced, and all the strong men are unable to work one or two. As a result, the so-called shrinking tactic also suddenly weakened a lot of its effect. When an avalanche occurs, no snowflake is innocent. Senior executives within the white god department, please, some people also looked back and recalled the bitterness and sweetness, and bitterly discovered that their approach was indeed much simpler and cruder than that of the black god department. The reason is not that they don't understand the people. In other words, the black god system may not be such a humane existence. The only reason is that the black god department's starting point is too low. The original Jia Yan had to be brought out by his subordinates one by one. You say, does he dare not be unkind to his subordinates and not think more about them? This is again the fault of the original setting. The white god type has a good hand, which makes people sigh and beat him to pieces. Young master, frontline battle report, 3 more planets could not be defended. I waited in the dark to protect them, but I could not save them. Yeah, I know. The white dolphin sits on the chair with an expressionless expression. No emotion or anger can be seen. Young master, don't you want to say something? You must always come up with some countermeasures. White Dolphin's eyes fell on the middle-aged man who spoke, and his expression remained unchanged as he said, "Then tell me, what should I do? The defeat is still uncertain. You can push our high-end combat power to the front, or you can protect other territories, or you can give up the star fields in the outside world, gather forces to defend near the kingdom of God, or you can block Jia Yan and the other's final attack, and still have enough. The white dolphin suddenly shouted and stopped him from continuing to propose. He stood up from the chair, and the paralyzed facial expression he had developed recently finally failed. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Dingdian Novel Mobile Version Reading Website. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2887. Everyone has suggestions every day. What is the use of the suggestions you are waiting for? What do you think these suggestions are for? Have I ever ignored your suggestions in the past? What about the results? It is clear that the suggestions you made have results, so why am I the one who takes responsibility in the end? The white dolphin spattered, venting his dissatisfaction. However, the more this happened, the more he found that the young and strong men looked at him with more doubts and contempt. As a superior, you can directly let your subordinates take the blame, or you can be ruthless. The only thing is that we cannot be without responsibility. Regardless of what others say, whether they are wrong or right, it is you who will ultimately support you. If something goes wrong and you want to let your subordinates take the blame, it is not impossible. You can simply let your subordinates take the blame and then make a decision. No one said anything about the new method. But are you hysterical? After the hysteria is over, and there are no new ideas, continue to adopt the suggestions of subordinates? Hey! To put it bluntly, virtue is not matched. The ability is not worthy either. He may be strong, but he is definitely not a candidate to rule a large area. The subordinates all had wonderful eyes. The white dolphin suddenly shut up and said, "That's all, just wait and prepare for the final battle. Just as we originally designed, even if you lose in this world, there will be no risk of death. In this matter, you can't give up halfway, there is still a possibility of winning, so don't give up easily." Yes. Everyone abandoned the indecisive and irresponsible white dolphin and slowly withdrew. Call. The white dolphin leaned back directly on the chair. To be honest, there is a kind of person who knows everything in his heart. But when things come to a head, they often do the wrong thing on the spot. Even if they regret it after a tenth of a second, it is already too late. In fact, there are many such people among ordinary people. But when it comes to a strong person, it is a very bad and inappropriate trait. White dolphins are the kind that are more serious than ordinary people. He has been able to reach this level of strength today not only because of his good talent, but also because of his great family background. Even if the young and strong faction admired his strength, they did not admire his conduct. Garden of God. It's better to say it's a garden than a world of flowers, far wider than the average prairie. Several women live here. A woman with a wise and calm look traveled hundreds of kilometers and came to this area. She stood behind the slim figure who was collecting nectar with his back turned to her. What? Is he going to lose? The graceful figure seemed to be able to guess what the visitor wanted to say without looking back. After a long silence, the approaching woman nodded, "Yes, he may be defeated." "Are you happy?" "It's a normal thing." The graceful woman stopped collecting nectar and stood up from the ground. "I saw that she was charming, with a beautiful temperament that surpassed all female creatures. I knew from the beginning that he was going to lose." The graceful woman didn't seem surprised and spent her free time playing with the flowers in the flower basket. "Don't you have any conscience? If he was cruel, he would have killed you before." Facing the words of the visiting woman, the graceful woman smiled lightly. "Cruel? Don't worry, he can't be cruel. His character is not that kind of person. Besides, he doesn't dare. The family behind me makes him dare not do this. I didn't really endanger his life. It's just a suggestion." The face of the visiting woman changed several times. She shook her head and sighed, "You know, he really lost this time. Although he is strong, he is still young. He should be given more time to grow. What does his growth have to do with me? Besides, what's the use of begging me? Do you think I can save him with my little strength? The two women were playing riddles, and it seemed like they were wrong, but both parties knew exactly what the other was talking about. Forget it, let God decide what fate you and I will have in the future. The visiting woman sighed and left. The woman holding the flower basket smiled seductively. She didn't say anything and stood up directly, her strength gradually gathering. Having imprisoned me for so many days, do you really think that there are no secrets in my black hole area? Seeing that the energy was about to break free, she gave up her freedom and everything returned to the ancient well. Now is not the time. Fate. Maybe fate is just here to tease people. The figure of a graceful woman slowly blends into the vast sea of flowers. The other side. The visiting woman has a slightly weaker, but differently beautiful look. She walked to the outskirts of this land of flowers. I saw a young man leaning on the fence and standing quietly. The woman noticed him and paused, but her footsteps did not stop. Did she show any signs of breaking free? The man suddenly asked. Maybe there is, maybe not. The woman was the military god of the White God Department. She walked in front of the man lightly, past him, and said, "Since you don't care about her, why don't you kill her?" The man shook his head. "I have no feelings for her, but I won't be stupid enough to kill her now. If I kill her now, she will just be destroyed, and the real body in the outside world will escape directly. I am still waiting to go out to find her to settle the accounts." The female military goddess seemed to pause again, but this pause only lasted a moment, and she resumed moving forward. "When we get out, let's resume our relationship as husband and wife," the young man suddenly said. This time, the female military goddess stopped completely. With her back to the young man, she said in a cold tone, "Let's wait until you can leave alive. Don't worry, I will definitely be the one who comes out of this world alive. As long as you have confidence, don't let me down again." The voice of the female military god returned to Gujing Buobo, and her whole body blended into the white space and disappeared. There are a lot of stories within the White God Department. This ancient force always has grudges and hatreds, and there are many stories. But the corresponding Black God system is much simpler. Whether it is the White God sect in this world or the giant Mosquito subordinates in the Orion arm, they are just emerging forces that have not been together for a long time. So there aren't that many bullshit things. Even if there is, it is only a small grudge between some individuals and cannot rise to the level of a feud. Sir, are the white gods going to lie down? In the Black Temple, the alien youth transformed by Leda is acting strangely. As Jia Yan's most loyal subordinate, Leda can be said to be the person who pays most attention to the content of this battle. Of course, apart from Jia Yan himself. It is a pity that he is not strong enough and his unique ability cannot be decisive in this war, so he does not have many opportunities to show his face in front of Jia Yan. The situation has become a little calmer recently, and he has time to show up in front of Jia Yan again. It doesn't matter if they lie flat, but we are really helpless. Jia Yangzia's judgment was very accurate. He didn't think he was too conceited. The White God system has no cards in its hand. At least until they show a stronger backhand, they have no other options. Don't rely on me. Go back to your area of responsibility and use higher pressure to force the White God system. What we have to do now is to force out more backhands from the White Dolphin. It's best to let him show all his cards in one go. Okay. Leda finally found an opportunity to come to Jia Yan and talk about her loyalty, but she didn't expect to waste her feelings. But he also heard clearly what Jia Yan said. Yes, what we have to do now is to continue to suppress the White God system. In one breath, the other trump cards of the White Dolphin were forced out. Although Jia Yan didn't know if the White Dolphin had any other back UPS, it was quite possible that the White Dolphin had other means, as it had no scruples in using the methods of a stellar powerhouse. So he always kept calm in his heart. He needs his subordinates to give the White Dolphin as much stimulation as possible. When the pressure is high enough, maybe the White Dolphins will show off his backhand. As a strong player, whoever shows his trump card first will definitely fall into a passive position. Even if his final backhand is incredibly strong, as long as he pays relative attention, Jia Yan believes that he will always find a way. Taking Jia Yan's order as the starting time, the powerful men of the Black God system once again began to take the initiative to launch an offensive. The entire Bayesian system has once again entered a moment of panic. A large number of Black God-type troops are pressing down on the front line of the border today. Countless young people from the Bayesian family rushed to the frontier. Behind each person, there may be the green girl from before waiting, or it may be an old mother, or it may be the frail grandparents who are looking forward to it. In short, these newly recruited soldiers of the White God Department were forced to enter the battlefield with various emotions. Well, an unknown young man stood on the bridge of the spaceship, staring at the rapidly receding planet below, and sighed. "Hey, young man, what's wrong with you? You're sighing." He suddenly felt someone slap him in the face. Looking back, the person who photographed him was a middle-aged man dressed as a Taoist. It seems ordinary, but his eyes are piercing and sparkling, giving people an intuitive feeling that is anything but simple. "When I met the Taoist priest, I was just sighing for my family and my lover." The Taoist priest was also wearing the uniform jacket used by the Bayesian sect to recruit soldiers, but inside this coat, he was also wearing a Taoist robe. In this world, it is not allowed to believe in other gods, but the immortal cult is not one of them. That's why Taoist priests wearing white Taoist robes can appear majestically in the recruit battleship. "Haha, my family is fake, but my lover is real." "Family, definitely family." The young man's face turned red. The Taoist said mysteriously, "If I say that I have a way to let you see your confidant every day, tell me how much money you are willing to give to the poor Taoist." This young man was the young man who said goodbye to the girl at the beach. It takes a lot of courage for a man to leave his lover and let the one he loves find love elsewhere. "Is there any way you can transfer me back to my hometown?" The young man's eyes lit up. But it soon dimmed again. "It's impossible. Who has the ability to reassign the mobilized troops to work? I'm not a big shot." "Haha, don't panic, little friend, you just need to do what the old man says." The Taoist chuckled. Next, he said something like this. The young man's expression changed from time to time, he was surprised and surprised. This force is an unprofessional, third-rate force. And the original purpose was to garrison, but the emergency on the front line forced the troops who were comfortable in the rear to embark on a journey to the front line. They need to urgently take over the defense of a planet. "Brother, aren't you willing to give in? Pandeo may be able to solve your problem." The young man discovered that the Taoist priest who had told him the method had been frequently chatting up other comrades recently. No one knew what his specific duties were, and the superiors seemed to turn a blind eye to this person. He could sense something was wrong, how could others not? Soldiers immediately went to the superior department to report. But what is creepy is that the superior department responded very quickly and went out to investigate, and then checked lonely. Alarms blared throughout the battleship. At this time of panic, the young man walked to the control room on the ship. Under normal circumstances, soldiers cannot approach this place. But amid the chaos, he came here easily. Holding the handle of the control room door, his inner thoughts surged, and finally these thoughts turned into the face of the girl from his hometown. Just die. Anyway, even if they go to the front line, their third-rate troops are nothing more than cannon fodder. Click. He opened the hatch, and before the soldiers on duty inside the hatch reacted with shock and anger, He had already taken out the electromagnetic gun that had been unlocked in advance and fired at the soldiers inside. At the same time, there were not only this young soldier, but also a large number of white god-type recruits who were doing the same thing. They were all deceived by the words of the elusive Taoist priest. Haha, looking for a job like Shiyuan is still suitable for poor people. While there was chaos below, the clone of Jia Yan, dressed as a middle-aged Taoist, was sitting at the highest point on the outer layer of the battleship. Such a ship that transports new recruits doesn't even have a venerable class, and only 1 or 2 starry sky-class ships. How can it possibly catch him? He sat in the space environment, took out a drink, and slowly sipped the good wine and food while listening to the fighting and gunfire below. What is comfort? This is comfort. A few words can make a battleship rebel. This is the true meaning of war. What's the point of winning by relying on strength? If you punch out, you will suffer 8 points of damage. It's not as easy and comfortable as what I did. This memory must be preserved. In the future, the real body will have to learn this. He is always reckless, but he is nothing more than a reckless man. He was relieved, but the killing below was extremely miserable. In the end, the battle came to a point where the rebels were hoarse, and just before they were completely destroyed, the Taoist priest disappeared. In the battleship, the surviving recruits received strong foreign aid. The Taoist priest held the wine in his hand and killed people one step at a time. In the end, with his joining, the already chaotic battle of the White God recruit transport ship came to an end. Tisk tisk, are you the only ones alive in this whole battleship? Well, Pandeo is not a person who goes back on his word. Since you are alive, I will send you back to the place of departure, and you don't have to remain anonymous. How long? No more than 2 years at most, will the White God system disappear from this world, and you can resume your previous life. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Dingdian Novel Mobile Version Reading Website. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2888. Cheer, boys, you relied on your own strength and got what you wanted. While all the recruits cheered, the Taoist smiled and took a sip of his wine. Disgraceful. What doesn't exist is just a means. If the Bayesian system is doing well, even if he uses techniques to confuse people, the effect will not be so good. It can only be said that the right way will help you more, but the wrong way will help you less. Doing what you say is Jia Yan's life motto. Having said that he would send them back, he would naturally not go back on his word. Others are in the rear of the White God department, which is a dragon's pond and a tiger's den. But for Jia Yan's clone, it was like entering a deserted place. Unless a god-level powerhouse takes action himself, there will be no way for him to be hindered at all. Even if the gods or even the white dolphin himself come to kill, so what? At worst, if he only has one clone, there could be dozens or hundreds of others behind him. Who is afraid of whom? The number of times Jia Yan has used his clones recently has reached the highest level in history. Almost every victory in a seemingly conventional war has his figure active behind it. The methods used include, but are not limited to, pretending to be pigs and eating tigers, assassinating enemy high-level officials, driving up prices in the White God department's rear areas, destroying enemy relations, etc. In short, all kinds of despicable and shameless methods were used. Some people may say that he is a scumbag, but don't the White Gods do a lot of tricks? If you have the ability, use your clone to cause trouble. I'm afraid the White Dolphin doesn't have that ability. Jia Yan was enjoying it anyway. It was rare to encounter such a battle, and it was a bit refreshing for him. The boy returned to the planet where he was born and lived, and then to the seaside, and what followed was a tragic story. It turned out that the girl was forced to marry the son of an official in a coastal city. She preferred to die rather than give in. In the end, she took poison and fell into a coma. The boy exploded. Charged with being a deserter, he killed the official's son and was wanted, leading him to wander around with the dying girl. At the critical moment, Taoist Jia Yan, who had inadvertently watched the young man living on this planet, took action. Save the girl whose life is hanging by a thread. He also gave the boy fighting ability, but this ability tended to be of the black god type. Having come this far, how could the young man care so much? As a result, the deserter boy became a destroyer sent by the black gods to this planet, and encountered great pressure. The girl followed the boy, and although the two of them slept in the open air, they were extremely happy. Occasionally kill some of the planetary troops chasing them, and their reputation spreads far and wide. Along with their rampage, the black gods began to have great influence on this planet. Although there is only one chess piece on the surface, there are countless chess pieces in the dark. With the help and support of the secret chess pieces, the young couple gradually became famous. Called, the Evil God Couple. They were killed several times, large and small, to allow them to escape. Government officials on the planet are afraid. People's hearts are also scattered. If they can't even kill such a wandering black god believer, why should they send troops to the front line to fight a large number of black god troops? It's impossible to win. In fact, no one knows that behind this young couple, there are a large number of powerful people with amazing strength supporting them. No one from the white god family knows about it, so who can know? The recruitment site, which was originally bustling with people, became sparse. The people, who were originally very angry about the war against the black god, became worried in everyone's mouth. The entire morale has changed. Naturally, whether it is the recruitment of soldiers, supplies, or manpower, it is a certain kind of inertia. And it doesn't stop here. Similar scenes are also happening on other related planets. Maybe it's some people who have enemies with the white god line, or slaves, or even ordinary risers. In short, the protagonists have various identities, and in the end they always end up on the opposite side of the local white gods, and they are all very troublesome. This must be the work of the black gods. I suggest you check inside. Yes, cleanse all those forces, families, and even troops that may be hiding the black god system. Within Bashan Kingdom, people were furious. The gods were listening above, and below were officials and strong men who came from all over the world. They talked a lot, and all kinds of eloquent reasoning came out of their mouths. This is probably called teamwork. But will the gods listen? Are you willing to listen? That's enough, don't make any noise. In front of the great by God, we, the wise, are just puny mortals. Everything is decided by Mr. by God. There was an invincible licking dog that came out of the crowd and shouted at the people who were talking. This is a very prestigious old man in the army. Perhaps what he says is more useful than the so-called gods. The situation was quiet. Please also ask my God to take charge of the overall situation so that we can know what to do next. The old man respectfully clasped his fists towards the gods sitting in a row. He looked up at the row of gods above, but his eyes flickered. Gods. At first, he came to the kingdom of God with great piety. When he paid homage to the gods, he was so excited that he wished he could die for the gods. However, it has only been a few years, but the number of these gods has gone from barely being able to fit in 2 rows to 1 row that seems empty today. Is it the fault of the gods or theirs? He didn't dare to speak out all the thoughts in his heart. He didn't even raise his head for a long time. He just lowered his head in a gesture of extreme respect. Not only is he really in awe of these powerful men who call themselves gods, but the more reason is that he wants to use the style to stabilize the entire white god system. There are completed eggs under the overturned nest. he is a member of the White God section. If the White God sect is completely defeated, he may not end well. Is there a strict investigation? The white dolphin sits on top. At least in front of mortals, his posture as a creator god is still extremely positive and majestic. The subordinate gods around him also gave enough face, and would not deny face to their young master on such an occasion. This is called putting the overall situation first. Strict investigation, it's too late. All you have to do is go back and cooperate with the recruitment work and recover as much resources as possible. No need to check. The invincible old man felt his head buzzing. It is impossible for the God of creation not to know how dangerous the situation is when public opinion issues arise in the rear area. But he didn't want to care. Why? Yes, don't worry about it. There is no time to do these side things in this battle. Don't worry about it for now. Just recharge your batteries and wait for the decisive battle with the black gods. This. What else does the invincible old man want to strive for? Presumptuous, do you still want to disobey the words of the Creator God? There was a tall god above him who suddenly shouted violently. Everyone below, including Invincible Realm, was trembling all over, feeling that it was difficult for their bodies to function. Now they all knew that the gods really didn't want to care about these things. But why? Along with the people who were shouted down, they filed out and exited the Bashan hall. There were only many white god level masters left in the entire hall. We don't have the energy or time to deal with this anymore. The black gods are destined to launch a decisive battle in our hinterland in the near future. Several strong men from the white god system side. The so-called morning soldiers must win, but they are morning soldiers without fighting spirit. I am afraid that their combat effectiveness will be deeply affected. I am afraid it is worrying how much combat effectiveness they will have in the next decisive battle. Yes, it's not like the white gods don't know how terrifying the influence of public opinion is. However, they don't have the energy or time to take care of so much. Because once it is taken care of, problems left over from history may not be solved by just taking care of them. It is like a revolution, which will affect a large number of interest groups and may even impact basic politics, people's livelihood, economy, and all aspects. They didn't do it at the beginning. To carry out innovation at this juncture will waste a lot of social power and may also lead to a lot of social unrest. They are just looking for death. So you can't move. Not only cannot it be moved, but as long as the status quo can be maintained and the voices of opposition are suppressed, no matter how many people die and the public resentment boils, they will not hesitate. Because as long as the white god sect wins the final battle, it doesn't matter what his future will be like under the white god sect's rule. Young master, the final battle is about to begin. The white dolphin nodded and closed its eyes. Looking back on his past experiences in this world, he smiled bitterly. When people create a world, they can control the wind and rain in it and enjoy life. But what about him? Chicken feathers everywhere. The emotions are still suppressed. It's not even as good as the outside world. At least there are many capable subordinates outside who help him work. He doesn't need to take care of many things or give orders. It hurt like hell. Originally, when he came to this world, he wanted to show off his ambitions and let the old-timers see how much he was capable of. Whether it is a dragon or an insect, you will know it once you try it. Then he tried it and it was a bug. No matter what, we have reached the current situation. In fact, we have not lost anything. Even if we had the advantage in the early stage, we will still let Jia Yan and his group create a situation that is enough for them to resist. Otherwise, they will. If we take the initiative to escape from this world, it will be nothing. So the current situation is just a slight miscalculation on our part. It is not too different from the situation where we have the upper hand. White dolphins are excellent at self-comfort. But when the subordinates heard this, they remained silent collectively, and some even showed disdain. Isn't the difference too big? Your small scope is really quite inclusive. If our side had the upper hand, there would definitely still be a large number of seniors making suggestions in the palace, and their combat power would be more than twice that of Jia Yan's side. Morale will also be much higher, and the young and strong factions will not often secretly question the future of this war. Is it a lot different? Facing the intriguing faces of his subordinates, White Dolphin said, his voice gradually getting smaller. Some people couldn't help but walked out of the temple. Leave without resigning. This represents their great dissatisfaction with the young master. Because even if you are wrong, you, the supreme leader, still show fear? Ha! Although acknowledging mistakes can greatly improve things, in this world, who can be good? If you make a mistake, there will be no food immediately, and the atmosphere will be at a low ebb. You will become the leader of the chicken. Your subordinates are not disappointed in you because your family background is satisfactory. If not, you would have died somewhere. The elders' suppression of the white dolphins was not all about pursuing their own interests. It is also a carving of the white dolphin. Let him grow into a better leader and lead the territory better. It's a pity that they left this world, and the white dolphins went their own way, and nothing changed for the better. The people leaving side. Maybe this fight is going to be bad. They are already thinking about their options. After all, even though they are subordinates of the white dolphin domain, their relationship with the Bai family is more like a loose federation than a superior subordinate relationship. If the Bai family fails, they will go out on their own. So no matter what, if the Bai family is defeated, they will not choose to go to hell together. They will just run away after fighting to a certain extent. The white dolphin sits alone on the God of Creation chair, with a sinister look in its eyes. He didn't want to either. But with such a personality, what can you do to him? A person can develop habits in 1 year and a fixed style in 10 years. However, he has maintained his current temperament for hundreds of years. You tell him how to change it? What is engraved in your bones cannot be changed casually. The Black God Department's attacks never stopped. They developed the habit of attacking cities and plundering territories, just as the White Gods gradually got used to being at a disadvantage. They became accustomed to winning, driving away the White Gods, and conquering the planets in the hinterland of the White Gods. Everything is formed like a formula. Regardless of whether the planet is inclined to resist or obey, there is a fairly mature response plan. Again, small probability events cannot affect the general direction. The comprehensive failure of the White God system has become irreversible to this day. Unless a high-level star among the stars suddenly comes from the sky, it will be difficult to change the situation of this battle. Oh. Well, it's probably possible, because the white dolphin definitely has some backup plan. Jia Yan is also ready. All the advantages in the past, and so many reversals, in fact, in the end, what they competed with was 1 or 2 tricks. Even though the black and white gods have their general advantages and disadvantages, once these advantages and disadvantages are determined, it is difficult to change them. But this conclusion does not mean that the intervention of plug-in forces cannot affect the outcome of the battle between the two sides. In a world of strong men, the strong are supreme. Apart from anything else, what Jia Yan is most worried about is that the white dolphin has the ability to send a strong person above the stellar level without destroying the world. If you can still fight the star at the elementary level, you can barely escape at the intermediate level. Then the existence of high-level stars or even top-level stars is not something that he in this world can resist. It is impossible to even resist. Just like what White Dolphin said to his subordinates, the final battle between the two of them does not actually focus on the previous process, but only on the results of the last few battles. If the White Dolphins have the ultimate method, maybe they have been losing in the past and won the last game. The result is still that he wins, and the previous impact is not big. With so many clones looking at him to death, I must be able to find out in advance even if he has some tricks. Behind the white god department, a beggar clone was flying in the sky. With so many clones coming to mess up the white god department's rear, in addition to giving the front troops more advantages, the bigger factor is that his clones can explore around more conveniently. As long as any of the clones discovers the White Dolphin's final backup plan, it will be worth it even if all the clones are destroyed. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2889. The latest website, Bang. Rumble. The starry sky that created the world can transmit sound. A large number of roars vibrated in the starry sky, producing extremely terrifying sound waves that made the residents of several surrounding planets tremble. This is another battle between the black and white gods. Once a fierce battle begins, no outside force can intervene. A large number of ordinary soldiers, like consumables, kept dying in that starry sky, constantly turning into energy nourishment for the entire starry sky area. Even the invincible realm are involved in the battlefield, but on the entire battlefield, the real top masters are not the invincible realm. The two powerful gods of the black and white gods stand proudly on the edge of the battlefield. Their existence is not only the backbone of each army, but also the biggest trump card of both sides. But when the game ends, it is not up to the subordinates to decide. The two looked at each other from afar. Because countless people died, the black and white energy continued to stir wildly in the starry sky, but it was swept equally by these two people, absorbed into their own bodies, and became part of their divine bodies. Maybe the so-called war to create the world, in the end, is really just nourishment for the growth of the gods. After a long time, the meat grinder battlefield between the two sides on the battlefield gradually subsided. The black and white divine forces invested approximately 3 million troops in this area in just 2 days. Of these 3 million people, nearly 80% were killed or injured in 2 days. I can't fight anymore. Morale on both sides was shattered. The gods on both sides have absorbed enough energy. Suddenly they opened their eyes. Now it's our turn. Yes, it seems that your abilities have improved again, but who is stronger or weaker between us has to be determined by your subordinates. Kill. The two chatted for a while in the air, then roared loudly. Countless powerful men around them only noticed two rays of light that were faster than lightning in an instant, and then collided together without any tricks in the center of the battlefield. An invisible wave spread from the center of the battlefield, and the shock wave raged in the sky. The strong men on all sides were unable to resist this, and flew backwards one after another, and the battleships were blown away by the strong wind. The battle between god-level experts is well deserved. Everyone in the invincible realm looked ugly. Some people have seen relatively few battles between god-level warriors, and they think that god-level warriors are just like that. However, now I know that the gods are not the same species as them at all. There is a difference between gods and mortals. Horses, where did these so-called gods come from? In some invincible states, I cursed in my heart. Regardless of the energy intensity, combat skills, or use of energy, the gods fighting in front of us cannot be of the same system as this world. The world is slowly changing towards reality, which not only affects ordinary people, but also the minds of these powerful people are becoming more and more normalized. Their brains are already easy to use, and now they are directly thinking about issues that they would not have thought about before. Doubts rang in their hearts from time to time. However, no one dared to say it openly. Because of these so-called gods, crushing them to death is no different than crushing an ant to death. Puff. In the past battles between gods, it was difficult to determine the winner. But these days are different. When the battle reached the 300th move, the black god-type warrior stepped out of the small world and struck the white god warrior on the chest, catching him off guard and causing him to bleed from the mouth. I've been taught a lesson. I'll ask you for advice in the future. The white god-type strongman had a sinister expression on his face, and a magical six-pointed star filled the air under his feet, and was about to disappear in the blink of an eye. Now that you're here, why leave? The black god-type strongman smiled sarcastically, and his whole body disappeared into the starry sky, and the next moment he flashed behind the white god-type strongman. The white god-type strongman was teleported out by magic, and at the same time, he suffered an electric and flint blow from the black god-level strongman. No one could see clearly who won and who lost. In short, the strong ones from the white god-type left, while the strong ones from the black god-type stayed on the spot. He's not dead, I guess he escaped quickly. The black god-type god wiped away the stained blood with a stern look. He didn't even look at the surrounding scenery and retreated directly into the darkness. The figure disappears. Well. Now it was the turn of the surrounding troops to start to struggle. The two bosses left the scene without saying where the battle was lost. Could they continue to fight? The reduction of personnel has reached an extremely dangerous situation, and what a slap in the face. No one can fight anymore. The two sides remained silent, waiting for each other, then retreated, then formed a team and retreated back to their respective camps. In the two major battlefields of the gods, the White God system lost both. Some senior officials of the White God department are extremely well informed about the outcome of the battle. After they got the news, they were speechless. The answer given in the message is obvious: the top combat power of the Black God series is stronger than the top combat power of the White God series. This is the most powerful voice that speaks louder than 1,000 words. The White God system has already lost in low-end battles. Now even the high-end combat power is gone? Many people were shocked, and some were silent, obviously having already guessed the result. The dispute between Black and White has reached this point, and many details have already been foreshadowed. The White God department has never managed the territory occupied by the White God department well. It was nothing at first. After all, the emergence of the White God system was nothing more than adding a level of spiritual God system to the White God system belief that had been created over the past tens of millions of years. The way of governance in many places remained the same. However, with the rise of the Black God system, any insightful person who has seen the Black God system's governance method will understand that the Black God system's governance, management methods, and the degree of care for the people are all completely different. I am afraid of comparison in everything. Once the comparison is started, the Black God system is directly better than the White God system by an unknown amount. But what makes these discerning people even more shocked is that the gods of the White God series are actually weaker than the powerful ones of the Black God series. Aren't you supposed to be evenly matched? If they are not equally matched, why are there two equally famous gods? This is a question that many people can't figure out. Of course, they don't know that the so-called battle between the Black and White gods has been unfolding outside this world, and the Black gods outside, that is, the Orion Arm Alliance, have always defeated more with less. The Orion Arm Coalition under the command of Jia Yan only had a dozen or so galaxy-level soldiers, but they were able to withstand more than 30 galaxy-level warriors. Although the White Dolphins and the others did not want to capture the Orion Arm in one go, it was enough to show how terrifying these strong men were. Especially after Jia Yan taught the Yin-Yang Dao, the superficial strength of these strong men has at least improved by 1 or 2 levels. You two boys did not disappoint me. The two powerful gods who returned to the rear received praise from everyone in the Black God Department Hall. Especially the Black Tiger God of War, the old territory lord from the outside world, laughed loudly and praised the two winners. Senior, thank you. In this battle, we have roughly realized the strength of these White Dolphin subordinates. I feel that although they have reached the top of this world, they have not grasped the limit of White God's power. I am afraid that the White Dolphin has not dealt with them. Reveal all the details. The two powerful men who were praised did not think there was anything wrong with being regarded as juniors by Black Tiger. After all, they were indeed juniors of the seniors in the outside world, and the seniors were domain lords, and they were only mid-level stars in the galaxy. Oh? Do you also think that the White Dolphin's subordinates are flawed in their strength? Jia Yan, who was sitting at the top, had bright eyes. The speaker below clasped his fists respectfully and said, "Yes, Mr. Jia Yan, after we fought with them, we immediately felt that these two guys have flaws in their white power. At least they didn't feel like the White Dolphins did when they fought with you. It shows that they have shortcomings in the white power, either the White Dolphin has spared them, or, they don't believe in the energy of the White Dolphin and want to form their own system." Heh, I think the latter is more likely. Qingling sneered from one side. As the ruler of the immortal cultivating superstar close to the edge of the original White God galaxy, she understands the White God system better than others. She has dealt with 7 or 8 White Gods, and she should be one of the best among them all. How to say? Because his subordinates generally treat White Dolphin in a submissive manner and look down upon him. It can be seen that White Dolphin has no dominant power in the Bayesian system. Sometimes even if he wants to teach his subordinates how to practice, they all fail. He doesn't give the White Dolphin any face. Do you think this is normal? As soon as Qingling finished speaking, there were endless sounds of admiration and admiration around her. Only then did they realize that the opponent they and others faced had so many internal problems. Haha, you still want to compete with us? That means they have the upper hand, otherwise they would have been bulldozed by us. I can't look down on others so much, but with this person's ability, I really want to laugh. Everyone was talking about it. Jia Yan waved his hand to stop everyone's noise. In just one picture, you can see the difference between him and the White Dolphin. At least Jia Yan's ability to control his subordinates is not on the same level as White Dolphin. Okay, let's not be dismissive of him. There is a reason why the White Dolphins can control a large swath of the starry sky, otherwise they would have perished long ago. Jia Yan paused and then said, "But don't be too cautious. Since they have internal conflicts, we can just take advantage of this opportunity to continue to expand the advantage of the war. It is best to take advantage of their internal disunity to directly seal the victory." Yes. All the subordinates of the Black God department below responded with their hands. Sometimes that's just the way it is. When one thing goes well, everything goes well. After the war in the underworld, the Black God department first experienced a period of disadvantage, and then the whole situation was turned around. The White God department fell into an absolute disadvantage. It was as if the previous situation did not exist, and there were problems everywhere. Certain local battles were easily won by the Black God system. The White God-type troops and the strong men were retreating steadily. Some of the wandering strong men who originally wanted to join the White God family backed down. Those who have already joined will feel uneasy and regretful. The defeat on the front line greatly affected the rear area, and people began to lose heart. There is an adjective describing it, but I don't know whether it is appropriate or not. Illness comes like a mountain. This is the situation faced by the White Gods today. The most exaggerated scene occurred in the 3rd month of the counter-attack against the White Gods. One day, the Black God department troops on the front line fought against the White God department troops. No matter how they fought, the White God department troops always lost, so they had to urgently take a big retreat. To put it bluntly, it was an escape. After the rout began, which lasted for about 5 or 6 days, the Bayesian troops actually retreated to the vicinity of the Bayesian kingdom. The Black God-type troops who killed Red Eye also followed him like a shadow, chasing him for tens of millions of kilometers. One day, the commander-in-chief discovered that there was a vast expanse of white in front of him, and his whole body trembled violently. Damn it! Did you come to Bayesian kingdom? At this time, his scalp became numb and he quickly ordered the troops to retreat. Otherwise, this army would be in trouble if they were hunted down by the powerful Bai Shen Jintai. Jia Yan waved his hand to stop everyone's noise. In just one picture, you can see the difference between him and the white dolphin. At least Jia Yan's ability to control his subordinates is not on the same level as white dolphin. Okay, let's not be dismissive of him. There is a reason why the white dolphins can control a large swath of the starry sky, otherwise they would have perished long ago. Jia Yan paused and then said, but don't be too cautious. Since they have internal conflicts, we can just take advantage of this opportunity to continue to expand the advantage of the war. It is best to take advantage of their internal disunity to directly seal the victory. Yes. All the subordinates of the Black God department below responded with their hands. Sometimes that's just the way it is. If something goes well, everything goes well. After the war in the underworld, the Black God department first experienced a period of disadvantage, and then the whole situation was turned around. The White God department fell into an absolute disadvantage. It was as if the previous situation did not exist, and there were problems everywhere. Certain local battles were easily won by the Black God system. The White God type troops and the strong men were retreating steadily. Some of the wandering strong men who originally wanted to join the White God family backed down. Those who have already joined will feel uneasy and regretful. The defeat on the front line greatly affected the rear area, and people began to lose heart. There is an adjective describing it, but I don't know whether it is appropriate or not. Illness comes like a mountain. This is the situation faced by the White Gods today. The most exaggerated scene occurred in the third month of the counter-attack against the White Gods. One day, the Black God department troops on the front line fought against the White God department troops. No matter how they fought, the White God department troops always lost, so they had to urgently take a big retreat. To put it bluntly, it was an escape. After the rout began, which lasted for about 5 or 6 days, the Baishan troops actually retreated to the vicinity of the Baishan kingdom. The Black God type troops who killed Red Eye also followed him like a shadow, chasing him for tens of millions of kilometers. One day, the commander-in-chief discovered that there was a vast expanse of white in front of him, and his whole body trembled violently. Damn it! Did you come to Baishan kingdom? At this time, his scalp became numb and he quickly ordered the troops to retreat. Otherwise, this army would be in trouble if they were hunted down by the powerful Baishan Jintai. Latest website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2890. It's the day. Many generals from the White God sect's major war zones had defected to the Black God sect, and the news spread throughout the White God sect's jurisdiction. The result was an overwhelming public attack. Even the generals of the White Gods who had not surrendered were not immune. Generals can surrender and even receive courtesy from the Black Gods. But what about the civilians? They can only do the logistical work against the Black Gods within the territory of the White Gods. So when the Black Gods attack, how will they treat those who have contributed to the White Gods' fierce battle with the Black Gods? They are afraid. So he angrily scolded those who surrendered. In fact, among the scolders, there are many people who will surrender as long as the Black Gods give them a chance. I just didn't have a chance. The unscrupulous scolding caused the generals who failed to surrender but were lazy to fight, and they were also disgraced. After many people got angry after being scolded, they simply refused to give up and surrendered. Anyway, the troops of the Black God department have all gone to the kingdom of White God. If this battle continues, the White God department may have no future. Of course, there are also many stubborn people. In a world dominated by faith, devout believers will not care about the consequences. All they want is faith. Not to mention that the White Gods have not been defeated yet. Even if they are defeated, they will definitely stick to their faith and hide in the dark corners, waiting for the day when the White Gods will revive and come to the world. And these staunch White God factions started fierce conflicts with a large number of waivers and capitulationists. Not only was the entire White God system not stable because of this group of loyal people, but it was even more chaotic because of them. Both the black and white gods had probably seen too many victories and defeats, and for a while no one came forward to express their opinions on the recent war. Probably the higher UPS didn't think there would be any change in the war, and allowed the lower level troops on both sides to continue fighting fiercely. The gods were guarding around the major troops, and would only occasionally be sent out to intimidate the enemy's strong men. However, in these confrontations, the black god system continued to steadily advance the results. The combination of various factors led to the further degradation of the white god's combat power. They could still fight back and forth with the black god's army, but they gradually could no longer resist. This battle was flawless, and the white god system won't lose at all. Haha, given the same military strength, which of our black god type troops cannot win? Don't praise me too much. A partial army was responsible for attacking the southwest corner of the white god system star field. And this area is the place where Jia Yan originally came here personally to open up the situation. In this area at this moment, because the initial outbreak point of the war was here, and there were so many white god department defenders, it was possible to break the confrontation and drive the white god department troops away to the hinterland. The victorious general was a commander sent from within the black god sect. Located in a remote place, the composition of the black god department's army is half recruited from the local area and the other half from outside the black god department, and not many are actually sent from within the black god department. It can be said that this is a mixed army. However, even the miscellaneous army has become an elite after being commanded and trained by masters from the black god department. In recent days, the white god army has been killed bloody, and a large number of strong men have asked to surrender. Yes, before seeing those good news, we thought that our side was going in an extremely smooth direction. Unexpectedly, other friendly forces were more powerful, and some of them were attacking Baishan Kingdom at close range. Several generals were sighing. Especially those local generals. Their strength is not too strong. If they were not locals, they might not even be able to obtain their status in the military today. As for the white gods, they, who have always been beggar thy neighbors, know best. How could they dare to fight head-on with the white god's army before? Even if they pick 1 out of 10, they may not be able to defeat them. Unexpectedly, the tiger was bullied by the dog. No, the overall combat power of the white gods is still that of tigers. It should be the regular army of the black gods, which are stronger than tigers and are all true dragons. What are you thinking about? It is said that on your planet, there was a pen and ink written by the original Lord Black God. The war is not tense these days. I want to go over and pay a visit. Oh, yes, those pens, inks and supplies are left in the museum. If you want to see me, General, you can go anytime, anywhere. Mentioning the word Lord Black God, the faces of the generals from the native planet showed a little pride. The young man who took the form of a young man at the beginning was later verified by many people and collectively believed that it should be Lord Kurakami himself who came to play the game. So suddenly, the unknown planet became famous. The several city-states that Jia Yan personally liberated even took the banner, leading to a sharp increase in status. A female reporter who was taking notes with the army was secretly glanced at by everyone. She just smiled lightly and remained silent. Everyone knows that this female reporter was the woman who followed Lord Kurakami all the way. Today, she is still engaged in her old profession, even if the president of the country has hinted to her that if she is willing to hold an important national position, even if she wants the presidential position, the president will give it up without saying a word. But the female reporter didn't want any of this. She said her mission is to be a reporter and that will never change in her life. The woman is older and looks more mature. He is so high up now that he doesn't know what he is doing. At first, I thought he was just an ordinary boy. After the meeting, the female reporter was thinking a lot. She still remembered that she was rescued by the young man, and then took him to her grandmother's old house, and then entered the city with great momentum and entered the national high-rise community. What a majestic power, but these majestic powers are a bit stingy if considered based on the identity of the young black god. In short, she knew that that gentleman was not as unattainable as the popular rumors. If he appeared in front of the general public, he would be able to chat happily. Perhaps we will never see you again in our lifetime. Hey, what are you doing? When the woman's thoughts were empty and no one dared to care about her, teasing sounds came from behind her. The woman looked back and frowned. She didn't recognize the person who came. He looked like a beggar. Who are you? The beggar smiled and ignored the many soldiers and strong men around him. He actually seemed to be one with the air as he approached the woman. But he was not hostile. I'm here to see an old friend. You can recognize him best. If you don't recognize him, just think of him as a friend from a long time ago. The beggar sat next to the woman, took out his wine glass and started drinking. Would you like a drink? Don't worry, it's not poisonous. The woman always felt that the scene in front of her seemed vaguely familiar. But if you think about it specifically, you can't think of any place where it happened. When she said yes and knelt down to drink with the beggar, a strong sense of familiarity came over her. This man's temperament is so similar to that young man. Could it be that you are? She asked a little excitedly. SHH, it's good to know. The front line is a bit busy. I just ran out to take a break from the busy work. The beggar sat, smiling, and sipping wine. Are you still going to the front line in person? I heard that I sit in the back and enjoy the marriage, right? That's right, that guy is sitting in the back, and all the dirty work is done by us, so he is free. The woman said she didn't understand a bit, but she still vaguely understood what was being said. It is said that the great and powerful man seems to have a large number of clones. Could it be that the person I met before was also one of my clones? Thinking of this, she felt a little relieved, but also inexplicably a little disappointed. After all, seeing such a great being is not the real person, and I always feel that there is a regret in my life. You've been doing well lately, and you even have security forces. The beggar took a few sips of wine, wiped his mouth and asked. The female reporter looked around at the guards who turned a blind eye to their drinking, and shook her head. It's just because of you that I get this treatment, but it is also because of my experience with you that I was able to get the right to interview extensively in the military. Thank you very much. It's not me. But on his behalf, I want to say you're welcome. The beggar drank and talked like old friends. Which unit are you on? In the army in the war zone next door, am still a captain. Hiccup, actually, I don't want to be a captain, but they insist on me, saying that I didn't die in several battles on the battlefield, so I must be an escape champion. The female reporter covered her mouth and laughed. I bet this big shot is anonymous on the battlefield over there. Otherwise, who would dare to let him serve as a mere captain if they knew his identity? My lord, is this battle almost over? The female reporter suddenly asked. Of course she knew that if she wanted to know the possible outcome of this battle, or the progress of the battle, asking this person would be more difficult than anyone else in the world. Because he is the supreme being. The beggar smacked his lips and shook the wine bottle in his hand. Actually, I don't know about this kind of thing. It just depends on what kind of backhand the opponent has. After all, the battle I'm waiting for is not just about the outcome. Backhand. The female reporter looked curious. What exactly is the so-called backhand? The fight between the two major gods has already reached this point. Is there any backup plan that can turn the tide? She broke her head and couldn't imagine what this kind of thing would be like. For the mortal residents of this world, it is somewhat difficult for them to imagine things beyond the level of the two creation gods. Because the creator god is equivalent to the upper limit. If it exceeds the upper limit, it is impossible to think about it. You are a reporter accompanying the army, right? In 2 days, this unit will be asked to advance behind enemy lines. If possible, you do not need to apply to enter with the army. After all, the subsequent war may be full of risks. The female reporter raised her eyebrows. I'm sorry about this. As a reporter, I have pursuits. I plan to record this battle from beginning to end. Maybe future generations will also need a female perspective like me to review this battle. It's a war, so I won't give up joining the army. Tisk tisk, responsibility. The beggar marveled, and then waved his hands indifferently. It's up to you, that's all. As for whether you listen or not, it depends on your own decision. When you enter the center of the war vortex, don't rely on me for life or death. That's it. See you again when you have a chance. After finishing speaking, the beggar packed up the wine bottles, bowls, chopsticks, etc. on the ground and stood up. The female reporter took a half step back and saw the beggar tearing open a piece of air, revealing the dark space inside, and walked into it. At this moment, the soldiers seemed to have come back to their senses from their confusion. But still no one felt anything, and they still stood firm. Interesting, let me hurry up. Is this gentleman here specifically to look for me and take care of my safety? She picked up the small notebook and opened a certain page. On this page, which was filled with data about the character and ability of the gods, she recorded a new key point, a very human feeling of nostalgia. After writing this, she pursed her lips and looked up at the sky. Even though she was just a small person, the reporter's perspective and unique sense of smell, coupled with the unique events that happened today, made her feel. Perhaps this war between black and white gods that spreads across the entire world, may come to an end in the near future. I heard that I sit in the back and enjoy the marriage, right? That's right, that guy is sitting in the back, and all the dirty work is done by us, so he is free. The woman said she didn't understand a bit, but she still vaguely understood what was being said. It is said that the great and powerful man seems to have a large number of clones. Could it be that the person I met before was also one of my clones? Thinking of this, she felt a little relieved, but also inexplicably a little disappointed. After all, seeing such a great being is not the real person, and I always feel that there is a regret in my life. You've been doing well lately, and you even have security forces. The beggar took a few sips of wine, wiped his mouth and asked. The female reporter looked around at the guards who turned a blind eye to their drinking, and shook her head. It's just because of you that I get this treatment, but it is also because of my experience with you that I was able to get such a generous salary in the army. Thank you very much for the right to interview. It's not me. But on his behalf, I want to say you're welcome. The beggar drank and talked like old friends. Which unit are you on? I, in the army in the war zone next door, am still a captain. Hiccup. Actually, I don't want to be a captain, but they insist on me, saying that I didn't die in several battles on the battlefield, so I must be an escape champion. The female reporter covered her mouth and laughed. I bet this big shot is anonymous on the battlefield over there. Otherwise, who would dare to let him serve as a mere captain if they knew his identity? My lord, is this battle almost over? The female reporter suddenly asked. Of course she knew that if she wanted to know the possible outcome of this battle, or the progress of the battle, asking this person would be more difficult than anyone else in the world. Because he is the supreme being. The beggar smacked his lips and shook the wine bottle in his hand. Actually, I don't know about this kind of thing. It just depends on what kind of backhand the opponent has. After all, the battle I'm waiting for is not just about the outcome. Ah. Backhand. The female reporter looked curious. What exactly is the so-called backhand? She broke her head and couldn't imagine what this kind of thing would be like. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Mobile version URL. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2891. Within the Bashan Kingdom. A young man in white clothes walks in the white god kingdom of Nyida. Everything has been covered. In fact, the white god kingdom is much more impressive than the black temple that occupies a single city. For example, the Black Temple is just the original capital of a country transformed into a temple. But the White God Kingdom is a real transformation of the planet, and even covers a large area of stars around the planet. It really feels like a paradise, a kingdom of gods. However, many gods of the White God department have never visited this land of God. At most, they cultivate in their own 1/3 of an acre. The white dolphin rarely became interested and flew around in the Bashan kingdom. Well, the white dolphin suddenly stopped moving somewhere on the planet and looked at the scene happening on the ground. The so-called white god kingdom also has a lot of mortals. Perhaps ordinary people are full of envy for the mortals living in Bashan kingdom, thinking that they are with the gods. But the people who really live here, like the outside world, need to experience the joys and sorrows that ordinary people have. It is impossible for the white god system to truly give equality to all people within the white god kingdom. Wherever there are people, there will be class. Are you beating someone? Let me see. The white dolphin flew to the place where the crowd gathered. Someone was beaten. This guy who was transporting feces and urine actually splashed feces and urine on my shoes. Several young men gathered around the Xiongfu, the person who transported urine and excrement in the city, and beat him violently. Within the kingdom of God, Daxi is a key position necessary for these cities, and will be despised by others. People in other fields are somewhat more equal. At least there will be no cases where superiors beat up subordinates. After all, this is the kingdom of God, and the punishment system is quite strict. Ha ha ha, this Xiongfu got beaten last time. Do you know why the city defense army doesn't care about this place? Yes, why? We are the superiors in the kingdom of God, and we generally won't let such an incident happen in the city. Many onlookers rarely see such incidents of Kuo Shao bullying others. Even if they are civilians, even if they put their faces next to the puncher's fist, they may not dare to punch him. Because the punishment is severe. You may not know the identity of this Xiongfu. He is a descendant of the previous big family. Others sneered. Oh, could it be that? Yes, he is the son of the city lord's family. He was implicated by his son in the beginning. This incompetent young master really succeeded more than he failed. There were so many old people taking care of him and giving him advice. In the end, he went out to the outside world, led a small army, and, being beaten by the black gods, I was so scared that I was running away. That's him. He dared to come back after losing. His family members were deprived of their official status. He deserves to be beaten. I'll give you a few beatings, this useless second-generation ancestor. The white dolphins were originally around just curiously watching. However, after everyone started talking about it, his expression became increasingly weird. Looking at the so-called second-generation ancestor, the son of the former city lord, he could vaguely see his own shadow. The same life experience, the same second-generation ancestor, the same uselessness, the same struggle under the hands of the black gods. But I'm better than him, at least I haven't fallen to the level of ruining Yexiang. Wrong. The second-generation ancestor in front of me just ended up here, but what about myself? Maybe his present is his future? Snort. Suddenly, there was a surge of energy in the place, and the white god aura of the young man in white swept away everyone around him. Some people were even beaten and bleeding, and several old men were about to drive westward. But the young man in white didn't even look at it. Come to the young man who was beaten. The young man was extremely embarrassed. He held his beaten head and whispered softly, I'm sorry, don't beat me, I'm sorry. You bastard. Are you so spineless? If someone beats you up, you won't beat him back. The white dolphin shouted loudly. The young man raised his head and saw that he was covered in feces and urine. There is something disgusting hanging on my face, but I don't even dare to wipe it off. Who? The young man in white gently flicked his sleeves, and all the disgusting things around him, as well as the dirt on Yes Yang's clothes, down to the atomic level, were all eliminated. It was more than enough to use as a bowl for eating on the ground. But of course, no one would actually do that. You are. When the young man saw this, he knew he had met a supermaster. And dare to exist like this in the kingdom of God. God. He trembled all over and knelt down quickly. You were once the son of the lord of the city, why can't you see even a trace of arrogance? White Dolphin asked intently. Sir Hui Bing, although I once had an identity, those things are just a passing cloud. The recent life has made me understand that I am just a son of a noble family who was reincarnated in a better way. Asshole, before he could finish his words, White Dolphin interrupted directly, are all young masters from aristocratic families incompetent? I see you know a lot about culture, Taoism, and martial arts. Why did you fall to this level just because of one failure? No, the young man smiled bitterly, sir, although I claim to be a scholar and a martial artist, when I really go to the outside world, I find that what I know is only superficial. Compared with those who have climbed up from the bottom, I am just a person in the greenhouse. The flowers are not even remotely comparable. Flowers in the greenhouse? That's nonsense. In an instant, White Dolphin couldn't accept this kind of rhetoric. With a slap, the young man in front of him, including the entire city behind him, turned into powder. The White God Kingdom Divine Guards who had originally arrived were frozen in place. If they were far away and couldn't see his face clearly, then when he swung out, everyone immediately felt his energy. I have met my God. This group of Divine Guards were all silent and hurriedly greeted them. Bai Shen actually started a massacre inside his own house. This has never happened before. When did the chaos within the Baishan system begin? Some of the guardsmen were miserable inside. It is rumored that the battle between the White God sect and the Black God sect in the outside world has entered an extremely difficult situation, and may even lead to a major defeat. Lord Shirakama's behavior is vaguely consistent with the rumors from the outside world. But their group of divine guards can be said to be the elite of the entire White God system, and they will always be labeled as White Gods. Even if they knew it, they would not be able to join the Black God system like other troops or other strong men. Unless the Black God sect really attacks the White God Kingdom and they seize the opportunity, they can defect to it. But is it still too late to take refuge then? Under various emotions, the White Dolphin closed its eyes. After a moment, he opened his eyes again. I am different from this person. He is not a strong man, but I am a senior domain master. That's right. The advantage that White Dolphin is obsessed with is not his family background, nor is it the literary, Taoist and military skills he cultivated through elite strategies since childhood. But its own strength. No matter how much family help he used in the process, the fact that he can reach this point definitely shows his talent and strength. If he was similar to the second-generation ancestor in other places and his abilities were mediocre, then in terms of strength alone, he was not convinced by Jia Yan. Yes, even if I am weaker than that wild boy in other aspects, my strength is still not bad. The White Dolphin muttered to itself and flew up, unwilling to look for any inspiration in life in this white circle. Fly back towards the White Temple. Only a mess was left for the group of divine guards kneeling behind them to deal with. Anyway, this is just inside his kingdom of God, and it is impossible to cause any adverse effects. Rumble. Just when the White Dolphin was still establishing its own life creed. the entire war between the black and white gods is still in an extremely fierce state. In fact, there is nothing wrong with white dolphins breaking through themselves and establishing self-belief. The mistake was that he chose the wrong time. During the war, you existed like a dignified head of state, but you were so confused. If you can win the war in this way, it will be awesome. The white god system without the existence of the head of state is like a headless fly. There is fighting everywhere. However, the person who dealt with it was the middle-aged white god-type strongman whose voice was weaker than that of White Dolphin. What's more serious is that in the previous meetings, this person had many differences with White Dolphin. White Dolphin severely scolded him in the hall, saying that he wanted to replace the older generation and control him remotely. This is already a heartbreaking statement. So even though the middle-aged man is still in charge of the white god-type troops, he is already absent-minded. If you lose early and get out early, it's best to break away from the Bai family. With such a young master, this power is over. In this case, is it possible for the white god system to win? There is smoke and fire everywhere, but nowhere is the white god system taking the lead. The white dolphins were originally around just curiously watching. However, after everyone started talking about it, his expression became increasingly weird. Looking at the so-called second-generation ancestor, the son of the former city lord, he could vaguely see his own shadow. The same life experience, the same second-generation ancestor, the same uselessness, the same struggle under the hands of the black gods. But I'm better than him, at least I haven't fallen to the level of ruining Yes Yang. Wrong. The second-generation ancestor in front of me just ended up here, but what about myself? Maybe his present is his future? Snort. Suddenly, there was a surge of energy in the place, and the white god aura of the young man in white swept away everyone around him. Some people were even beaten and bleeding, and several old men were about to drive westward. But the young man in white didn't even look at it. Come to the young man who was beaten. The young man was extremely embarrassed. He held his beaten head and whispered softly, I'm sorry, don't beat me, I'm sorry. You bastard. Are you so spineless? If someone beats you up, you won't beat him back. The white dolphin shouted loudly. The young man raised his head and saw that he was covered in feces and urine. There is something disgusting hanging on my face, but I don't even dare to wipe it off. Who? The young man in white gently flicked his sleeves, and all the disgusting things around him, as well as the dirt on Yes Yang's clothes, down to the atomic level, were all eliminated. It was more than enough to use as a bowl for eating on the ground. But of course, no one would actually do that. You are. When the young man saw this, he knew he had met a super master. And dare to exist like this in the kingdom of God. God. He trembled all over and knelt down quickly. You were once the son of the lord of the city, why can't you see even a trace of arrogance? White Dolphin asked intently. Sir Hui Bing, although I once had an identity, those things are just a passing thing. The recent life has made me understand that I am just a son of a noble family who was reincarnated in a better way. Asshole. Before he could finish his words, White Dolphin interrupted directly, are all the young masters from aristocratic families incompetent? I see you know a lot about culture, Taoism, and martial arts. Why did you fall to this level just because of one failure? No, the young man smiled bitterly, sir, although I claim to be a scholar and a martial artist, when I really go to the outside world, I find that what I know is only superficial. Compared with those who have climbed up from the bottom, I am just a person in the greenhouse. The flowers are not even remotely comparable. Flowers in the greenhouse? That's nonsense. In an instant, White Dolphin couldn't accept this kind of rhetoric. With a slap, the young man in front of him, including the entire city behind him, turned into powder. The White God Kingdom Divine Guards who had originally arrived were frozen in place. If they were far away and couldn't see his face clearly, then when he swung out, everyone immediately felt his energy. I have met my God. This group of divine guards were all silent and hurriedly greeted them. Bai Shen actually started a massacre inside his own house. This has never happened before. When did the chaos within the Baishan system begin? Some of the guardsmen were miserable inside. It is rumored that the battle between the White God Department and the Black God Department in the outside world has entered a very difficult situation, and may even lead to a huge defeat. Lord Shirakama's behavior is vaguely consistent with the rumors from the outside world. But their group of divine guards can be said to be the elite of the entire White God system, and they will always be labeled as White Gods. Even if they knew it, they would not be able to join the Black God system like other troops or other strong men. Unless the Black God sect really attacks the White God kingdom and they seize the opportunity, they can defect to it. But is it still too late to take refuge then? Under various emotions, the white dolphin closed its eyes. After a moment, he opened his eyes again. I am different from this person. He is not a strong man, but I am a senior domain master. That's right. The advantage that White Dolphin is obsessed with is not his family background, nor is it the literary, Taoist and military skills he cultivated through elite strategies since childhood, but its own strength. No matter how much family help he used in the process, the fact that he can reach this point definitely shows his talent and strength. If he was similar to the second-generation ancestor in other places and his abilities were mediocre, then in terms of strength alone, he was not convinced by Jia Yan. Yes, even if I am weaker than that wild boy in other aspects, my strength is still not bad. The white dolphin muttered to itself and flew up, unwilling to look for any inspiration in life in this white circle. Fly back towards the white temple. Only a mess was left for the group of divine guards kneeling behind them to deal with. Anyway, that's all. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2892. The woman's retreating back suddenly shook. But after a few short breaths of silence, she smiled miserably, said nothing, and continued to leave unswervingly. At least I found out in the end that he remembered their first meeting. If you pretend not to know each other when you meet in the future, is it to get closer to you? What a stupid male. His weakness is not cowardice. There are too many emotions that are too affectionate and have nothing to do with being strong. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Behind the woman's figure, a long trail of tears was left. The Black God system is very difficult. The establishment time is also very short, so short that it is difficult to have as many grievances and hatreds as the White God system. But precisely because of its simplicity, there are not so many situations that could lead to disintegration in the entire organizational structure model. The White Gods fought on their own, which gave the Black Gods great convenience. Because their linkage is disconnected. There is no support, and there is not much assisting defense capability. The Black Gods often attack one unit and beat them to death, but the opponent can't even wait for a supporting force. When we first broke into the hinterland of the White Gods, we saw the White God Kingdom from afar. This was no longer just once or twice, but often. If it weren't for the many God-level masters in Baishan Kingdom, there might have been troops that directly invaded Baishan Kingdom. In this way, everyone in the White God Department is still with the old God. Even the boss is absent-minded, so why should a subordinate focus on him? Anyway, the death of the body in this world will not affect the real body outside. Many people are already arranging a mess, preparing to leave as soon as possible, and then they really want to get out of the Bai family and save the vast majority of their interests. The White Dolphin, which was thought to be not doing its job properly, was indeed not doing its job properly. He was sending his ex-wife away. Vera, after you go out, remember to walk farther away, in the northwest direction. That direction is temporarily inaccessible to the Orion arm. If you have any problems, Go to my uncle. Although my uncle's strength is not as strong as that of the senior domain, lord, but he has profound knowledge and must be acquainted with senior domain lords. I feel relieved to have him as a protector for you mother and son. I see. Listening to her ex-husband talking, he had gone from being somewhat confident before to now seeming to be completely explaining the funeral arrangements. The female military god was speechless for a moment. It's good to know. I'll send you away now. Without wanting to say anything else, White Dolphin waved his hand and saw that a gate suddenly appeared in a valley where he usually visited. Outside these doors are actually not exits to the outside world, but some kind of energy body that does not harm your spirit. If you enter it, don't resist. This clone will naturally die, and your spirit will automatically return to you. It's really on my body. After finishing the instructions, the white dolphin took half a step back. The female military goddess took a deep breath and stepped into the center of the chaotic door. But before she completely disappeared into the gate, she looked back at Baihuo and said, "If you don't die, don't be so pessimistic when you go out. If you are willing, I will remarry you." White Dolphin paused, but before he could respond, the momentum inside the door was roaring, and the majestic body of the female military god was directly transformed into nothingness. This move is called returning to the ruins. In fact, it is the death of a god, but the death of a god does not mean that her energy is useless. The white dolphin quickly braced itself up and absorbed the energy without paying attention to so many things. As for what the female military god said just now, he may take it to heart, but he will definitely not treat it as a top priority. Maybe in a few days, these words will be forgotten by him. Not long after, the white dolphin opened its eyes. It was not too troublesome for him to devour the energy of a god-level powerhouse. Who? Suddenly, he looked coldly and stretched out his hand. An invisible big hand appeared and caught a proud figure standing in the distance before his eyes. The owner of the figure did not dodge, and even if he did, he probably wouldn't be able to avoid it. "Kun? Why are you? Didn't I let you come out of the garden?" Seeing the captured woman, White Dolphin's face suddenly became extremely cold. The current indifference between him and his ex-wife has a lot to do with this woman. Why can't it be me? I want to come and meet my nominal husband. Can't I even see the woman leaving? Concubine Kun is as beautiful as ever. Between her frown and her smile, she is more attractive than the female military god. Humph, you know very well what the relationship between you and me is as husband and wife. The white dolphin snorted and did not want to pay attention to the woman. It's only for the benefit of both parties. Moreover, he had previously sensed that concubine Kun was trying to help Jia Yan under the guise of helping him. Yes, the so-called small world practice of giving advice, and the person who encouraged the white dolphin to swallow Jia Yan was actually concubine Kun. However, concubine Kun was careless about her ultimate goal. She was planning to let Jia Yan swallow the white dolphin. After all, her sweetheart is Jia Yan, not White Dolphin. On the White Dolphin side, the rhetoric that he hates Jia Yan because of love and hates Jia Yan so much that he wants to die is just an excuse. That's why White Dolphin put it under house arrest. Oh. I remember someone said that I can't leave until I figure it out, right? Now that I understand it, why can't I leave? What do you want to understand? I figured it out, there was nothing wrong with what I did. You. The white dolphin really wanted to kill this woman with one palm. But he didn't. Because even if this woman is killed, her clone outside will definitely be fine. When she wakes up before herself and others, God knows what she will do. This woman's character seems to be quite terrifying now, and she dares to do anything like that crazy woman. No matter how good looking she is, it's useless. Males are afraid of women like this. Kill me, I just want to get out. The woman said calmly. I won't kill you, and I won't let you get what you want." The white dolphin suddenly calmed down and put her down from the energy. "Afraid that I will go out to cause trouble? Don't worry, I promise you that I won't cause trouble. Or are you afraid that a weak woman like me will come to this point?" Concubine Kun laughed, the sarcasm in her eyes becoming more and more obvious. Everyone has their own love, and she doesn't like useless men like Bai Haiti. Like Jia Yan, there must be not many females in the world who wouldn't like a male who has both good looks and masculine qualities. You don't have to force me. There may be weak women in the world, but it's definitely not you. The white dolphin was slapped away. Concubine Kun's eyes were sharp and she was slapped by him. "You are so brave, aren't you afraid of my family's power?" "Afraid? I'm just a senior domain lord. When I swallow Jia Yan's energy, I will at least be a master among senior domain lords. There is no need to be afraid. I'm afraid it's not you who devours him, but he who devours you." The white dolphin smiled lightly, flew up, and flew away. Before leaving, he looked at the illusory gate in the valley, frowned, and with a wave of his hand, absorbed the entire gate into his body. He relied on the energy in his body to activate the door. Now that the energy is withdrawn, the door can no longer be opened by others. I'm quite careful about such trivial matters. Concubine Kun looked at the figure retreating in the distance and struggled to get up from the ground. After a while, she smiled strangely. A burst of energy surged inside her body. Not long after, a gate similar to the one released by the white dolphin appeared in front of you. Concubine Kun stood up and walked towards the door. But before leaving, she was a little reluctant. "Chia, I won't look at you for now. I believe you will win against this loser. I'll go out and do something for you first." After saying that, this charming woman threw herself into the unstable door. Not long after, she heard a long and painful moan. After all, she is not a white dolphin, so the door is not perfect. There is no turning back when the bow is drawn. Although the process was full of pain, she succeeded in wiping out the body of this world as she wished, and her mental power rushed out of this world like an arrow from a string. After doing this, the white dolphins that were so close could not react yet. It can only be said that he lacked vigilance in certain aspects. Of course, it is meaningless to complain about white dolphin, because there are too many things to complain about this person. It is only said that at the same moment that Concubine Kun left, the white power in the whole world suddenly moved and increased slightly. Bouletin Jean White Dolphin felt it at this moment, and even Jia Yan, who was far away inside the Black Temple, also felt it. What? In a short period of time, 2 white gods died. No, this doesn't look like death. In the previous pre-war reports, there was no report from any front army that they would fight against the enemy's god level. Jia Yan was shocked and speechless for a long time by the energy fluctuations of the death of 2 gods. For those who are at the level of a creation god, the disappearance of a god-level person is enough to cause their senses to detect it. The energy of this world is due to the structure of the black and white gods. The power of the gods is extremely terrifying. So they left, and soon a large part of the energy will be fed back to the created world. As the black and white gods, it is still possible to feel this energy. But it must have been something the white dolphin started to do as a backup. After Jia Yan realized it for a moment, he didn't fight for these 2 powers. Because the energy of the 2 god-level experts mixed into the space was too far apart, it was already a bit irrelevant to him and was of little help. In fact, the most he thought about the spillage of these 2 energies was this part of the white dolphin's conspiracy? On the other hand, the lack of vigilance is too severe. Of course, it is meaningless to complain about white dolphin, because there are too many things to complain about this person. It is only said that at the same moment that Concubine Kun left, the white power in the whole world suddenly moved and increased slightly. Bouletin Jean White Dolphin felt it at this moment, and even Jia Yan, who was far inside the Black Temple, also felt it. What? In a short period of time, 2 white gods died. No, this doesn't look like death. In the previous pre-war reports, there was no report from any front army that they would fight against the enemy's god level. Jia Yan was shocked and speechless for a long time by the energy fluctuations of the death of the 2 gods before and after him. For those who are at the level of a creation god, the disappearance of a god-level person is enough to cause their senses to detect it. The energy of this world is due to the structure of the 2 gods of black and white. The power of the devouring gods is extremely terrifying. So they left, and soon a large part of the energy will be fed back to the created world. As the 2 gods of black and white, it is still possible to feel this energy. But it must have been something the white dolphins started to do as a backup. After Jia Yan realized it for a moment, he didn't fight for these 2 powers. Because the energy of the 2 god-level experts mixed into the space was too far apart, it was already a bit irrelevant to him and was of little help. In fact, the most he thought about the spillage of these 2 energies was this part of the white dolphins' conspiracy? On the other hand, the lack of vigilance is too severe. Of course, it is meaningless to complain about White Dolphin, because there are too many things to complain about this person. It is only said that at the same moment that Concubine Kun left, the white power in the whole world suddenly moved and increased slightly. Bulletin Jean White Dolphin felt it at this moment, and even Jia Yan, who was far away inside the Black Temple, also felt it. What? In a short period of time, 2 white gods died. No, this doesn't look like death. In the previous pre-war reports, there was no report from any front army that they would fight against the enemy's god level. Jia Yan was shocked and speechless for a long time by the energy fluctuations of the death of 2 gods. For those who are at the level of a creation god, the disappearance of a god-level person is enough to cause their senses to detect it. The energy of this world is due to the structure of the 2 gods of black and white. The power of the devouring gods is extremely terrifying. So they left, and soon a large part of the energy will be fed back to the created world. As the 2 gods of black and white, it is still possible to feel this energy. But it must have been something the white dolphins started to do as a backup. After Jia Yan realized it for a moment, he didn't fight for these 2 powers. Because the energy of the 2 god-level experts mixed into the space was too far apart, it was already a bit irrelevant to him and was of little help. Regarding the overflow of these 2 energies, in fact, the most common thought on my mind is whether this is part of the white dolphins' conspiracy. On the other hand, the lack of vigilance is too severe. World, as the 2 gods of black and white, it is still possible to feel this energy. But it must have been something the white dolphins started to do as a backup. After Jia Yan realized it for a moment, he didn't fight for these 2 powers. Because the energy of the 2 god-level experts mixed into the space was too far apart, it was already a bit irrelevant to him and was of little help. In fact, the most he thought about the spillage of these 2 energies was this part of the white dolphins' conspiracy? On the other hand, the lack of vigilance is too severe. It's too far away and it's a bit irrelevant to him, so it won't be of much help. In fact, the most he thought about the spillage of these 2 energies was this part of the white dolphins' conspiracy? On the other hand, the lack of vigilance is too severe.